How can you prevent a technical glitch with equipment or a mishap with the technical aspects of your presentation? Because we've all seen it. Someone is standing up in front of a large conference, everything's going well. They push a button, no slide. They push a button, they're expecting video, no video. They push a button talking about this great clip, this great video, this ad they're showing, there's no audio. And it's embarrassing for them and it's uncomfortable for you in the audience. Now, if you are the speaker, that's when you start feeling the sweat coming down. You're thinking, oh no, this isn't working. I look like a fool. And the problem is, yeah, it is uncomfortable. So it's completely legitimate to be uncomfortable at that moment. How do you prevent this? Well, like a lot of things in life, you prevent it by doing more work up front in advance. The big problem so many speakers have is they think the preparation of their presentation is looking at slides on their laptop, hitting the return button on their laptop, even practicing, even rehearsing, looking at their screens on their laptop. Well, if you are giving a presentation in front of people, whether it's a boardroom in front of 6 people or 20 people or 30 people, or you are at a major conference and you're in front of 80 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, the equipment you're using is actually different. For starters, you might be forced to use a different laptop. They may tell you, well, just email the presentation in advance, and you assume the laptop you're using is going to be the same as yours. Wrong. Every laptop can be a little bit different. The keys can be in slightly different places. The programs to play various video formats and audio formats can be different. So what you really need to do is get to the venue and do a rehearsal using exactly 100% the same equipment you're going to use in real life. Because when you're home practicing, you can push a button, the return, on your laptop, and that advances to the next slide. But if you're given a remote control that's going to advance 2 seconds before you speak, you have no idea how it works. You have no idea what button does what. You may be going reverse, so you're trying to go forward. You may be hitting the laser when you're expecting to advance a slide. That is the worst possible time to try to learn a new technology. Let's look at the technologies that you use if you are presenting to more than a handful of people, if it's on stage or a major conference. There's the computer. There's the computer software that could be different from yours. There's a remote control. There is the device hooking into your computer that receives the message from your remote control. There is your microphone. There is the program that will play video out, and maybe the computer has all the programming perfectly to play the video, but if it's not connected to speakers that your audience can hear, you're in trouble. There is the projector if it's projecting onto a big screen. There's a television screen if it's projecting onto a screen. There's all the audio connections. So you add it all up, you're using dozens of different pieces of technology. And the attitude so many people have is, well, it was fine when I looked at it on my own computer, so let me just walk in and wing it. No, that is a prescription for disaster. I urge you, get to the forum in advance. If it's a major conference in another city, another part of the country, another part of the world, don't just fly in 10 minutes beforehand and go right up to the stage. Get there the night before if you have to. Do a rehearsal, even if it's 10 o'clock at night. If you're giving an 8 a.m. speech, get there at 6:30 in the morning and rehearse. One of the things you need to do is find out who is in charge of this technology. If it's a hotel, find the person. Quite often hotels rent that part of their business out to an outside service. Make sure you have the name, the phone number, the cell phone of that person. Make sure they are there for your rehearsal. Ask them questions. You may be using a new microphone that is one of these things that looks like Madonna and a rock star, and it's uncomfortable. It's falling out of your ear. You may be using a different type of lav mic. The remote control may be different. It doesn't matter how tech savvy you are. I can tell you this from personal experience. The worst possible time to try to learn new technology, or for that matter, learn anything, is when there are hundreds of eyeballs staring at you. At that moment, you are going to feel a certain tension. There's a certain amount of adrenaline flowing through your body. So it's the worst possible time to be learning. At that point, you want to be executing. You want to be sharing your expertise. You want to be in conversation, but you do want to be essentially just going through the motions at that point, delivering people your great ideas. You don't want to have to be thinking about this button, that button. Is this wire here? Is this Wi-Fi working? Speaking of Wi-Fi, if you're playing video, huge mistake to ever try to play a video off of YouTube or any other platform or your website. Do not do it. Far better to download the video file right onto the computer and play it from there. So if there is an internet connection problem or interruption, doesn't affect your presentation. How many times have you seen and I seen someone hitting a button expecting to show some nice, wonderful promotional video or great news coverage or great demonstration, and all you're left with is sort of a meek apology. Well, I guess the Wi-Fi's not working well in the convention center. Boo hoo hoo. Yeah, you might feel sympathy for that person, but that's what you remember from the presentation, not their actual ideas. The best way of using technology when you're giving a presentation is to use it in a way where your audience doesn't even notice it. They're not aware of it. They're on their edge of their seats, listening to you, learning from you, getting your ideas into their head, remembering your ideas, your examples, your stories. Ideally, then getting ready to leave the presentation to take the actions you want, whether it's buying from you, investing in you, voting for you. You want it to be seamless. And the way for it to be seamless is through rehearsal. And yes, you need to rehearse on video, because you can be rehearsing and using slides and everything looks fine. It feels fine to you. But if you have a video camera, even if it's your cell phone 20 feet out, and then you look at it, you may realize that there's all this light and letters over your face because you're blocking the projector and the screen, and no one can even make out the screen. The other thing a video rehearsal will reveal to you is what's the actual experience for the audience? Because so many slides look great when you're 18 inches away looking at your own computer. But if you put the camera out in the audience, maybe 50 feet away, and project it on you, what you will see when your slides come up is nobody in the audience can see the bottom half of the slide other than the people in the first row. So that shows you've got a real problem. That's why you want to test in the form of video rehearsal. Also, ask yourself, am I using this technology because it's genuinely an enhancement for my audience? Or am I doing it because it's easy and I'm lazy? I'm a big fan of video. I make lots of videos every single day, but I typically don't use video in most live speeches. Why is that? It's because there is higher risk. There's so many things that can happen between the laptop, the speaker, the projector, Wi-Fi occasionally, all these different problems. And it's a different experience. If people come to hear me speak or hear you speak, they should see you speak. If it's just playing a video, people can do that at home in their pajamas. They didn't need to get up and come see you in person. A lot of times people use video as a crutch. Well, I don't have to be interesting. I don't have to prepare an interesting presentation. I can just sort of say, hello, glad you're all here, and check this video out to learn about our organization. Click and sit down. That's the lazy way of doing it. There is risk anytime you use technology. I'm not saying you shouldn't use technology. I'm using microphones and internet and cameras right now. But when it comes to adding audio and video in your presentation, you need to ask yourself, is there really something, some idea that can only be conveyed by showing this video that I can't convey by speaking? If so, then yes, I'll play the video and I'll do the due diligence necessary to make sure the video actually works and people can see it and hear it. But if it's just people giving you testimonials or something with a little glitz and music and graphics to jazz things up to be interesting, that's a poor use of video. You need to be interesting because of the ideas coming out of your mouth, because of the examples, the stories you're telling that are so compelling that people want to listen, they want to learn, and they remember. So that is how you avoid problems with technology for your presentations. Okay, so good morning and good afternoon. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me. Hello, TikTok friends. Let me adjust the camera here slightly. And a special hello to all of my friends joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, LinkedIn, and a handful of other platforms. So happy to be with you. We are live. I started off today just sort of hopping in, doing a long form video answering a question. This will be edited down. Graphics will be added, a little music, B-roll, and that will be posted on my social media platforms at some point in the next month as a sort of a more traditional video on demand. But what I do right here is take you behind the scenes. I am taking you behind the curtains. And for those of you on TikTok, here's the curtain, and showing you how an actual content creator makes content in the communication space. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 deal. It's a live show. I take your questions, and Farak, I see you. I'll be answering your question in just a moment. It's a community. Anyone who wants to come on and share the screen with me, talk to me, ask questions, do your own demonstration, you're more than welcome to do so. All you have to do is click the URL, and we post that. We've just posted it. My colleague Ben has posted this in the comments section. If you post that, you go into my green room, I see you, and you can come online. Now, if you're on TikTok, I don't have the ability to have you join me on screen yet. I would need you to come on over to our YouTube channel to connect, and you can be on screen. So I apologize for that. Okay. Harry says, listen to suit. Okay. And Harry, just so you know, for many, many years, I dressed very casually. The reason I'm in a suit is I looked at the trends, I looked at the data on my YouTube channel, and in videos where I was wearing a suit and tie, the audience was like 10, sometimes 20 times higher. So instead of getting 400 views, it would get 4,000 views. So there just seems to be something about someone who looks like me, an older man, let's be generous and be accurate, where people would rather see in a suit than some, more casual attire, or certainly they don't want to see me with a shirt unbuttoned at the top, that sort of thing. So that is why I'm wearing a suit. Let's say hello to Farak Khan has joined us. Says, hi, how are you today? I'm fantastic. Thanks for asking. Would you tell me which camera are you using now for this live or your Udemy courses? So those of you who don't know me from my Udemy courses, I have a couple of hundred courses on the Udemy platform, which is the largest, most popular online course platform in the world. I've done hundreds of courses on Udemy with different cameras. Many of my most successful courses were done with like a $30 webcam. I now have, what I have on right now is, and I forgot which one, it's a Sony A7C. This camera, which our TikTok friends can't see, is also a Sony A7. These cameras are expensive. I'm not suggesting you have to go out and buy expensive cameras, but they're about, I think, $2,700, $3,000 each. They each have lenses on them that are also, I don't know, $700, $1,000. So it can get pricey. I'm not suggesting you have to have that. Because as I mentioned, for many of my most popular Udemy courses, they were done with a $20 webcam. What's far more important is to have ideas that are useful to other people. You've got to do one of two things if you're making video. It's got to be useful to people where there's some benefit to them, their life, or you got to be entertaining. And those of you who've watched this regularly know I'm no Jerry Seinfeld. I'm not that funny. So the only reason to watch me is because it's somehow benefiting you, not because you find me entertaining. So, Farak, I hope that's helpful to you. Farak, share with me, are you thinking of making a course? If so, what's the topic? If you are thinking of making the course, is what's holding you back the right camera? Because if so, you're like a lot of people. Many people do, in fact, tell themselves, well, I'm going to make a course on how to do AI generation for marketing or how to play tennis more effectively. If I just find the right camera, let me research a little more on the camera. Don't do that. Just start. And these days, the camera on iPhones, on cell phones are great. They're so much better than what $50,000 cameras were 10 years ago. So I beg you, do not hold back on creating content because of the camera. In fact, that is getting me going. And it's one reason why I'm here live with you every day is you say things or ask things. And I either think that would be interesting to a lot of other people or a twist on that would be interesting to a lot of people. And I do short form and long form videos. So I want to do one of those things right now about is the right camera holding you back? So again, this is a warts and all live show. You're going to see me drink water, drink tea from time to time, and it's not going to be a slickly produced thing. I'm just inviting you into my workshop. So that's why we're here. If you're getting any value out of this, please hit the thumbs up button on whatever platform you're on. It does help send signals to various algorithms so that more people are invited. And Farak, let me know where you are today, and specifically, if you are thinking of doing a course and what the topic is. And I see you put, I really appreciate your advice. Thanks for all your advice. But Farak, I need help from you. I need to know, are you thinking of doing a course and what is the topic? And if you'd like to come on, we can have a conversation. I've posted the link to the show so you can click it and then you can appear right on camera with me. Now, you don't have to, but that is a way to engage even further. So I appreciate that. I do want to take a moment to say hello. I mean, in just a few minutes, we've had, it looks like, at least 80 people join us on TikTok. And those of you joining us on TikTok, if you're interested in coming on camera, please come over to my YouTube channel. All you have to do is go to YouTube, type in TJ Walker Success, and you can appear live right here on screen. So I see John Winters is with us, Sarah, Robin, Brian, Harlan, Kevin has joined us, Mitch Reed, Barry, Mike, Chris, Dave Jacobs, Patrick Taylor. So Bullet has joined us, user 664, Chris, Jack, John May has joined us, Jipper Jack, all sorts of fun names. So many people have joined us today on TikTok. So it's great to hear from you. If you have questions, you can post them. It is much harder because I have to scroll a phone from 2.5 feet away. If you go to my YouTube channel or my Facebook channel, and you can find that just by typing in TJ Walker Success, then I will definitely see your questions and your comments. So please, if you're interested, join me there. Okay, so what I do on this show is I take your questions and I answer them, sometimes designed to do it in a short form way so it can be converted and edited into a short form video, something that's less than 60 seconds and put out on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. Sometimes I do it in a long form version, which is what I did at the very beginning of this show. So I want to take your question right now, or a version of your question, Farouk, and do a short form video. So I'm going to go camera 2. And this will make sense, my TikTok friends, if you go to the YouTube channel, because I'm in a studio now that has 3 different camera angles. So people will see it very differently if you come into our YouTube channel. So I'm going to hit record so I can gather this in 4K. What's holding you back from creating an online video course or your own online social media video channel? For many people, it's, I'm going to do it next week, right after I get the perfect camera. Let me tell you a secret. Nobody cares about your camera. The camera doesn't matter. Your cell phone camera is great. What matters, your ideas. Can you share some idea with people that will either help them, educate them in some way, or entertain them? If you can do one of those 2 things, you have everything you need to start today. Okay, so I realize that looks a little artificial especially to those of you on TikTok. Who's he talking to? What I'm doing, and to our folks joining me on YouTube and Facebook, I've done it from that angle because it simulates what someone looks like if they're up on stage speaking to a group of people, and sometimes we edit in audiences, because the data show that when people are watching videos of me of how-to information, it somehow seems more credible if it seems like I'm talking to an audience. If I'm talking about public speaking, if I'm actually speaking to a group in sort of a convention platform setting. So that's why I'm doing it from that separate angle. So Farouk writes, I am in Pakistan. I've been following you a long time, watched some of your Udemy courses. I've also started thinking to start courses on a virtual assistant. I hope we'll speak soon. So Farouk, are you thinking of doing a course for people who want to become a virtual assistant, or are you thinking of creating a course for people who want to figure out the best, smartest way to hire a virtual assistant, or something for both? Because it is a little bit different, and maybe you could do it for both, but it might confuse people. Typically, you're better off picking a course topic that really appeals to one specific demographic. So for example, I have a course on interview skills that's just for people who are being interviewed for jobs. I have another course that's just for people who have to interview people for jobs. They're the employer. I could have put it all together. In fact, I may have added as a bonus parts of one to the other, but the positioning of it is just one. Oh, so Farouk writes, yes, I'm planning to do both. So I would do a little experiment. I would maybe start with one for the larger audience. If you think it is people who want to become a virtual assistant, my guess is from the gut, that would be the larger audience. And then maybe add a few extra courses for people looking to hire one. And then maybe your second course, do one just for people who are trying to hire a virtual assistant. That would be one way I would try that. Okay, I want to do a long form video now, and I've got to change the angle. And forgive me, my friends on TikTok, I can't easily move my cell phone without it falling over because it's on a tripod. So you'll hear me, but you probably won't see me very well for this. I'm going to take a sip of some warm tea. And before I start this, because what I try to do for the long form videos is to go about 8 minutes long, because that tends to be seen more favorably with the YouTube algorithm, other platforms, because they want people watching longer. There's always a trade-off. You don't really want to go on and be repetitive just to kill time. But all of these platforms make money by keeping people's attention on so they can show them more ads. So I am a part of that world. I'm here hoping primarily to help you and benefit you, because then ultimately that will benefit me as well. But there are other players involved, because YouTube's not charging me to be here. TikTok isn't charging me to be here. So we have to figure out how to make this not a win-win, but a win-win-win. A win for you, a win for me, and a win for the media companies that create all this connection for us. So that's why I have to think about that. All right, so I'm going to hit record so I capture this on 4K, and I'm going to go to my camera 1, and I'll try to move this for our TikTok friends without it. That's falling over. It's a little bit tricky, but I think we've got it there. Okay, so I'm going to set my alarm or my timer, because I'm trying to get better at my own timing, to do at least around 8 minutes. What's holding you back from creating your own social media video channel, or perhaps making an online video-based course? It may be that you're not one of these people who's so nervous and uncomfortable. You may be thinking, yeah, I'm definitely going to do a course. I've got the expertise. I'm going to start a channel. I could be the next Mr. Beast, or I could be the next how-to expert who has millions and millions of subscribers. I'm going to start that course. I'm going to start that channel. I'm going to start posting on all social media tomorrow, right after I get the perfect camera. If you've ever said that, you're not alone. This is something that holds so many people back, because, hey, you want to be prepared. You don't want to just jump into something willy-nilly and make yourself look like a fool. You realize that speaking in social media, creating video online courses does involve technology. I congratulate you for that. You're absolutely right. But here's the problem. Once you tell yourself it's all dependent on finding the right camera, next thing you know, you're researching cameras. Oh, this camera looks good, but it's saying people who like this camera also like this. So let me check this one out. And before you know it, you spent 6 months researching cameras, and you're more confused than ever, because you have no idea what the best camera is. And now you've invested all this time in trying to figure out the right camera. You can't just get one arbitrarily now. That would ruin your sunk cost of all this time you spent looking at cameras and doing research. So what do? Well, let's just think about it. Before you know, another 6 months has gone by. And a year has gone by since you told yourself you were going to start that social media video channel. You are going to create that online video-based course demonstrating your expertise, where people have been telling you for several years you should do that course. And we're no further along. Let's step back for a minute. I'm going to tell you something that a lot of influencers won't say, and certainly camera manufacturers don't want to hear. Your camera doesn't matter. Yes, I've invested in some very expensive cameras. I've got a 3-camera shoot here, and they're very expensive, and my studio costs $20,000 plus. You don't need it. All you need is your cell phone. Believe it or not, the modern cell phone, iPhone, other phones, the cameras are so high quality, they're better than a 10-year ago $50,000 camera. So your problem is not the camera. The problem is you're using the camera as an excuse to start. There's this sense that we all have I want to do it, but this is a little scary. Let me tell myself I'm not really procrastinating, because I'm doing something really useful, like researching cameras, because of course I have to have a camera if I'm going to make an online video course, right? I see the logic, but you're only fooling yourself. It is a procrastination technique to say, I've got to find the perfect camera, the perfect microphone. Your cell phone, without any microphone other than the built-in microphone, is so much better than what you're doing today. If what you're doing today is only watching me and not creating your own social media video, or not creating your own online video-based course. You need to get in the game. You can always upgrade. I've been making videos since most of you have been born, since before you were born, and I'm always upgrading. And it wasn't even that long ago, I was typically using a $50 webcam. So do not let technology and the desire to get the perfect technology stop you cold in your tracks. Get going. Create ideas, share your creativity just using your cell phone or a simple webcam. It can be a built-in webcam in your laptop. If you've got great ideas, useful ideas, people won't really care about how expensive your camera is or how perfect it is, as long as people can see you and they can hear you. Get in the game. Mr. Beast didn't start off as Mr. Beast with tens of millions of people watching him. He started off with himself and two friends watching him. Everyone starts off at a low level, unless you're famous from some other field. You start off with a very small audience. So you know what? If your camera isn't very good, no one's going to notice because not that many people are going to watch you in the beginning. And if you spend a ton of money, if you get a $100,000 camera, not that many people are going to watch you in the beginning. So it's wasted money to do that. So enough with the nonsense. Forget about doing more online searches for perfect lights, perfect microphone, perfect camera, perfect tripod, and instead hit record today. Okay, so that was not as long as I wanted to do. But you know what? That's all I have to say on that topic. So I'm going to start right there. Or I'm going to stop right there because I don't want to put in extra filler or extra padding. And I'm okay with the idea of, all right, maybe that video is not going to go viral. Maybe it's not going to get 10 million views. But I'm pretty sure it's going to get at least a few hundred. And I am convinced that for some of those people, it will be beneficial. If I help even one person decide to make an online course today, create a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel today, and to stop wasting time looking for the perfect camera, then there's benefit there. And it's great. So that's kind of my mentality. There are a lot of different strategies for creating video content. Well, I want to make sure I've hit off. I believe I did. So when you see me doing that, I'm hitting my mixer because I am recording 4K footage from 3 cameras all at the same time. I'm also recording this a fourth way through the StreamYard app, and that's in high definition. But the super high definition 4K, I'm starting it and stopping it because it takes up so much bandwidth, and I want to make it easier for my editors to just look at the stuff I'm doing. Someone named Church for You Independent Baptist says, great work, TJ. Well, thanks. I do appreciate it. If you don't mind, can I dig a little deeper? Of course, everyone loves being called great, and I appreciate that. But I want to know specifically, what did I say that was useful to you that you might take action on, that has helped you in any way? Because I want to figure out how to be better at what I'm doing, because I'm certainly not perfect. I'm not killing it every single day, every single presentation, every single video. Some videos get 10,000, some videos get 10. Some people are helped a lot from certain ideas and insights I deliver. Others can fall flat. So I very much appreciate your compliment. I don't mean to seem like I'm fishing for additional compliments, but I would like us to go a little deeper. If you could tell me what specifically I said today or any other day that you think was beneficial, that would help me and might help other people too, because I might be able to expand upon that. So give me some thought on that. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. It's a little different from most commercial breaks for live shows in that it's a demonstration. I am an Amazon influencer recently. It's only been about 3 months. And I'm sort of on a journey of being an influencer as opposed to an expert who uses social media and makes online courses. So I'm going to show you right now a number of my videos. Not because I'm expecting you to go out and buy all the products. I mean, you could, but I want you to see how simple it is, because the ads I'm about to show you were all done, for the most part, 95% of the time, were done in one take. And when they initially were posted onto Amazon, there was zero editing, absolutely zero. You'll see a little bit on here that my team has just made it a little bit fancier, and they put a few graphics and a link. But these are very simple ads that pretty much anyone can do. Brett says that, how much have you made on Amazon product links? So Brett, I'm a big believer in being transparent, and I want to be transparent with you. Amazon has all these weird rules where you're not supposed to tell people anything, or they can kick you off. And they enforce these in a very arbitrary manner. So I want to be careful. I will tell you, as an influencer, I won't say Amazon influencer, but I'll tell you, as an influencer, the money is very small amounts compared to what I make selling online courses. I'm doing this to look at signals for trends to try to help other people do it. So I would say, as an influencer in the last couple of months, I've only made a couple $100. So I'm being very transparent. This is not get rich quick. What I'm interested in are the trend lines. And what I do see is views go up every day, clicks go up every day. And sometimes I'll see 25 different products that sell. Now, you often only get 30 cents or so for commissions. I would recommend, unless you're already as famous as a Kardashian, or you've had your own national TV show, or you've been a part of a reality show, if you don't have a huge following, you're not going to get money quick. What's fascinating to me about the Amazon Influencer Program, though, is you don't have to sell to your own existing audience. Like, it doesn't really matter to me if any of you buy any of my products today, because Amazon puts your ad on the Amazon page for that product. That's what's fascinating. And you can be making money from that, the proverbial while you sleep, passively, for a long, long time. Again, I say this with a little caution, because most of the time when I hear someone talk about passive income, my first reaction is, hold on to your wallet. Someone's about to scam you, because it's not passive. You have to do work. But it's not this as simple as you're charging by the hour. And it is possible to sometimes make money when you're not putting in additional time, because there have been some ads I do in one take in 15 seconds, and it's maybe generated $25 for me. Is that a lot of money? No, it's buys a simple lunch here in South Florida, but it's 15 seconds. So you've got to weigh that. I'm not telling you you have to become an Amazon influencer, or it's the greatest thing ever and you're going to get rich quick. What I am telling you is, if you're interested in being an influencer, it's one way in, and it's a way that has solved some of the problems that most people have, because most people have a problem of there's no audience to sell. So you can spend a lot of time and make literally zero. We are going to take a break in just a moment, but I see a number of comments have come in from our friends on TikTok. So I want to address those. And forgive me, it's a little bit harder. Jana, I see you. I would love to talk to you and have you join me on screen, but I would need you to come over to my YouTube channel, because I can't access it through. Let me look at a few of the comments and questions. And Brett says, I think he needs a consultant for his wardrobe. So Brett doesn't like my suit. I can tell you, some people love this suit. Some people hate this suit. That's okay. So I can tell you, no matter what you wear, somebody, if you speak to large enough audiences, isn't going to like it. And that's one reason, frankly, why a lot of people don't make videos online, is they don't want the criticism. Uh, Brett also, okay. Oh, Brett says pretty clearly clashing between the pants, tie, and suit. Well, the pants are the same color. So the pants cannot clash with the suit. It's a solid light blue shirt, and it's a sort of a maroon burgundy. Now, you may actually be right that it's clashing because Brett, you may find this obvious. Some of you may find this surprising. I'm colorblind. So when someone says something clashes, I have no idea what they mean. That's why you don't see me wear patterns. You don't see me wear complicated patterns with my ties, shirts. I tend to keep things simple because I really don't know when things are clashing. But also, I would suggest that certain things, different, every computer screen, every cell phone, the colors can look a little bit different. Typically, anytime I've been, people have seen this in real life, no one's ever thought a burgundy tie and a light blue suit like this clashes. They might not like the suit. Sometimes people have said, "Oh, you look like you're an airline pilot." It is a little bit similar to some of the airline pilot colors. Okay, so but Brett, it's perfectly. Brett also says is that ice in the coffee. And no, I actually have green tea here. There is no ice in it, and I typically don't have ice when I'm speaking. The someone named Don says great demeanor. Well, thanks. I think he's really leaning forward though. So I do generally stress when you're talking to a camera to lean forward. If you have certain perfect posture, it can make you look stiff and scared and nervous. Plus, even if you don't have a double chin, it will make you look like you have a double chin. So I do typically recommend when you're speaking on camera, doing TV interviews, making social media videos, you lean forward. And Brett was the one who asked about how much. So again, totally candid. I've not made some fortune. What I'm looking for are initial streams. I can tell you when I started my online course career that I not only didn't make money about the first 10 years, I lost money. When I first went on Udemy 10 years ago, I made, I think, $0 the first month and $5 the second month. But I've since gone on to make many millions from online courses. So I'm always interested in the long term. If you're looking for quick cash, I do not recommend being an influencer or making online courses. And Brett says it's around 5% of online sales. Often it is a lot less than 5%. And Brett says the courses are a scam. I don't know if you mean my courses in particular or how many you've taken of them, but I do have courses that are typically on sale for $9 that are as long as 30 hours about how to be a better communicator. And I've had countless people write to me saying, you helped get me a job, TJ. You helped get me a promotion. You helped get me investors for my company. So I can tell you a lot of people don't think of them as scams. Brett says, you can tell they are scam because people never make their money back unless they push the courses. Now, Brett, now you are onto something. Yeah, there are a lot of courses on, I guess I was being presumptuous thinking you were talking about me. There are a lot of courses on the internet that say, buy my course today. It's normally $50,000. You can have it for $1,900.95. And I guarantee you're going to be making $50,000 a month within 2 weeks. Or I guarantee you I can make you a professional speaker charging $20,000 a speech, and you're going to be on the stage with Anthony Robbins. Just buy my course for $2,000. Brett, I absolutely agree with you that most courses that are high priced about how to make money are in fact scams. What my courses are about is to help you with a particular skill, about how to, for example, come across your best if you're on a job interview. So, but Brett, I don't think we're that far off. The course therefore amount to a pyramid. There can be pyramid schemes with courses in the same way there are with vitamins in any other industry. There's no doubt about it. Passive income made nickels on the dollar. Just pay me $500. Yeah. So I think that Brett, you and I have similar attitude. If I hear someone say passive income, my first reaction, grab the wallet and run, because it's typically someone selling you a scam. The best passive income I know of is spend less money than you make in a regular job every month. Take that money, put it into an index fund, a broad S&P index fund, if you're at least here in the United States. And over time, you will typically get a 10% a year. It's not a guarantee. You could be down 20% in 1 year. But that's what I think of as passive income. And guess what? You'll pretty much never hear anyone talk about that on social media. You'll pretty much never hear anyone talk about that on CNBC, because nobody makes money off of that. People make money by saying, this is the hot new thing. This is the tip. Buy this, sell this, use our platform. Simply putting money into an index fund. And full disclosure, this is not a financial talk show. This is, and I'm not here as your financial expert. I'm not giving any financial advice to you. This is just general observations. You're not going to find people give you the best information about finance, because everyone is trying to sell you something and get some commission, something. I'm not trying to sell you any sort of investment scheme. And that's why typically the most successful way of generating passive income for most people is by investing in index funds, where you put it in and you don't take it out until 20, 30, 40 years later, if you really need it. Anyway, that's a bit of a side. Brett is saying pants are in the shadow. Well, you're right. And I'm coming to you. You're seeing me on my cell phone. If you want to see what I look like, come on over to YouTube and you can see I'm on a different camera now. You can see me from below the knees to the top of my head. So you can get a much better sense of the color. It does look like my pants are darker because there's more light focused on my face. So that's why that is like that. Okay, I promised you a little commercial break. Forgive me for this, my TikTok friends, because you're not going to see it. You'll hear some of it, but we're going to take a little break here. I will be back taking your questions. This is sort of a free forum on Friday. I'm going to be taking your questions, making videos, showing you how I make how-to communication skills videos. In the final hour of the show today, I'll be making actual Amazon influencer videos, not talking about it conceptually. I'll actually be making the videos, which is something we typically do the last half hour every day of the show. But for right now, I'm going to play you some commercials that I hope you'll look at it and say, that's not that great. I could do that. Guess what? You could. These are all simple commercials that I've done for the Amazon influencer program that I then have rights to show any place else and put in affiliate links. So that's what I'm going to show you. Hydro Peak Thermos seems like a part of the family. I use it every day. I carry it with me to the pickleball court every day. I live in South Florida where it is hot and muggy, and it's important to me to be properly hydrated. I don't want to rely on a vending machine that's peddling other stuff. I want to take my own filtered water. That's why I use this Hydro Peak. It does a fantastic job. It's durable. I've dropped it many times. I have a dent or two in it. It still works perfectly. If you're looking for a thermos that is durable, sturdy, doesn't leak, I don't think you can go wrong with a Hydro Pack. Are you looking for something light and easy to take around to bring your music to your next party, beach, barbecue, pool event? This speaker does the trick. I've had this for several years. I've used it countless times with friends, family members, gatherings we've had, and it turns any normal gathering into more of a party. It sounds great without me having to lug around big speakers or find outlets. It holds its charge, it lasts for hours, it sounds great, it syncs up easily and quickly to my cell phone. I'm not the greatest tech wizard, but it's easy to use. If you want a nice sounding speaker for your events, home, office, out at the beach, this speaker will do the job. Reading is important to me. That's why I love this reading lamp.
It's very flexible. You can adjust up, down. You can adjust how bright or dim it is. Hi, I'm TJ with the TJ Walker Success Channel, and so much of my success I give to reading a lot. I like to read at least an hour every night, so it's important for me to have reliable lighting. That's why I keep these around the house next to my bed, next to the couch, so I can read there. If you're looking for something that's flexible and affordable and reliable, this reading lamp fits the bill. I don't do a lot of stapling these days, but every so often I do need to staple. This Stanley, it works perfectly every single time, and it has for years. If your office, your home office, your regular office needs a stapler, Stanley knows how to get the job done. Like anyone else, I like a bargain and go for other brands from time to time that I've never heard of. But when it comes to batteries, things I need to really work, where I need the power, I like to stick with something reliable. Duracell is a brand I trust. We buy packets of batteries in bulk, so we always have the power we need. This sunset lamp is very versatile. It comes with a great handy remote. I can easily turn it from blue to red to green to white. It's useful for your home, for your office. I use it for my TV set to give a little more depth. You're gonna like this if you want a simple way of creating a little extra light in any room. This Glide Gear teleprompter is fantastic. I mount it on my tripod. The camera goes in the back. I then pull this out and I put my iPad there. All of my text, my script is on there. I can use software to manage that, and now I can be in front of this, whether it's 3 feet, 8 feet away, looking directly into the lens of the camera, following a script. No more of this stuff where I'm looking at cue cards over here, up there. I'm looking right at the camera. So it makes things really look and feel professional. Hi, I'm TJ with the TJ Walker Success Channel. I create videos for a living, media training online courses, and there are times when I've got to get it word for word just right, whether it's an ad for someone else or my own products or services. That's why I have to use a teleprompter. This one has never failed me. I like the Kirkland water filter.
Okay, now I am back live. Thank you so much for giving me a break. This is a lean operation here. Now, it's a 3-camera shoot. It's a studio. We've got set issues, lights that go on and off, a mixer, and I'm the only one here. Now, I do have a team of editors and colleagues that help me with a lot of things I do in this business, the communication skills business, the training business, speaking business, but I'm the only one here. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you want to do something, you have to have 3 cameras and a mixer. It's just how we're trying to have this evolve and get better and better. But I do take a break occasionally and just sit down. The reason I'm standing is because I find it's easier to demonstrate things people actually do when they speak. So I'm going to go to camera 1, and forgive me, TikTok, you can't see this, all of it. But here you can see me from below the knees up. And I can gesture, I can move around. There's space here. And the reason I do that is so much of what makes people uncomfortable and nervous speaking is the fact that people can see you and you're standing and you don't know what to do with your hands sometimes and you don't know if you're rocking. So I can demonstrate these things. If you're giving expertise about physics or accounting or something, there's no need for that. But I have taken the time to build a real studio. So this is not a green screen behind me. I can go back here. You can see that I'm getting smaller now. This is, and you don't hear me as well. I'm further away from the shotgun mic. So there's some depth here, and I do that so I can demonstrate aspects of speaking, and typically the aspects of speaking that scare people the most. When you are standing on a podium, on a stage in front of people, it makes people nervous. And that's why I built a set this way. So if you're joining us live, hi, I'm TJ Walker. This is the TJ Walker Success Channel. This is the place where I try to help you become more successful in life by being a better communicator and a more confident communicator. That's what we're about. It's not about financial advice. It's not about how to get passive income. It's about how you can be more successful by improving your communication skills and by being more confident. Rob says no picture. So, yeah, Rob, if you want to see everything I'm doing today, I would need you to hop over to YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, really any other social media platform other than TikTok. TikTok, we're still trying to figure out the ins and outs, but it appears as though you have to have about 25,000 subscribers before TikTok will allow you to push a feed in from another service. I use the service StreamYard, which allows me to simulcast on about 8 different platforms. So if you want to see some of the things I'm talking about, that would be the easiest thing, which is just to hop on over to YouTube. You can find me there by typing in TJ Walker Success. Okay, we're going to get to the next question. I always take questions from you. Some of you email them in, some of you post them in the comments. I give priority to anyone willing to show up and speak on camera. So if you want to just show up right on screen, I've posted the StreamYard link in the comment section, and our TikTok friends, you can see that on the YouTube channel. But I also have people email me, sometimes text in questions from various social media accounts. And then I also, from time to time, take questions that have been culled from the internet, courtesy of artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, because quite often they really get things that people are talking about, but for whatever reason, don't ask me. Here's a question. What should I do to avoid going over the allotted time for my presentation? I'm going to try to do a short form answer to that, as well as a long form. So I'm going to go to my camera 2, and I'm going to hit record. How can you make sure you don't go your... And that's a perfect example. I do make mistakes from time to time. I just start from the beginning. How do you keep from going over your allotted time when you've been asked to speak or give a presentation, and it's a set amount, let's say 10 minutes? Well, here's what you don't do. You don't practice your presentation by reading it silently in your head while you're staring at your slides or your script, because what takes 10 minutes there might take 20 minutes when you're actually speaking to people. You get a sense of your timing by actually speaking out loud and recording it and timing it. That's how you'll get a better sense of being right on time. Okay, I'm going to stop that one. So that's a little bit hard for me to do because there's a bunch of things I want to say on that. And I'm going to do one as a long form video right now. That shouldn't be an excuse to me, because I should be able to do these well, even in a short form. So I'm still trying to improve. What I do try to do is get to the point where if someone asks me a question about communication skills, I can do it in 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, or 30 hours, and be completely comfortable and know that I'm giving them the absolute best information at all times and what should be a priority. I think I did a pretty good job there, but not a fantastic job. But I think it is going to be good enough. If you have any questions, please post your questions. If you don't have a question but are watching live, because I do see you there, just say hello. Just say hello and let me know where you are today, whether you are in New York City or Islamabad or London. It's always nice to know where our international community is from. So please let me know. Farak's joining us from Pakistan today. And the Independent Baptist, I'm not quite sure where you are, but if you want to let us know where you are. And also take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, sign up for notifications. That is very helpful in helping me reach more people and help more people around the globe. Okay, now I want to do a long form video. I'm going to switch to camera 1. Excuse me, TikTok. I guess I'll try to bend the camera without it falling over, but it's not going to be a perfect angle. And I'm going to try to do this one, again, on this topic of going over your allotted time, and do it in around 8 minutes or less. So I'm going to set my timer so that after the fact I can see. And now I've hit record on my mixer so that my editors can get the highest quality content in 4K. You're given an opportunity to speak. You're told you've got exactly 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. How can you keep from going over your allotted time? Because let's face it, it's easy to just get swept up in things. You're enjoying it. You're getting a good reaction, but you notice it's 2 minutes till you're supposed to get off the stage and you're only halfway done. Oh no. Well, at that point, it's too late. Let's step back for a minute and really analyze what gets people into trouble in the first place when it comes to timing. You're told you've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Great. You know in advance how long you're supposed to be. The problem most people have is they start writing out a speech or they're writing out PowerPoint slide deck. And when they're practicing, they're doing it in their own head. They're reading the slides. They think they're reading it slowly, but they read all the slides and hey, it only took 5 minutes. And you were told you've got 5 minutes. So you think, wow, this is great. I'm in good shape, piece of cake. But then you stand up to speak. You're talking. There's maybe a laugh, maybe a question. Someone in the audience looks a little quizzical and you maybe stop and give another example. So what takes 5 minutes to say in your head might actually take 10 or even 15 minutes in real life when you are speaking it. All of us can read faster, think faster than we can speak. The other issue is you're not taking into account the pausing, especially with a larger audience. You need to pause after you've made a point. You need to give people a sense of, I'm finished here, now I'm transitioning over here. You may actually be taking a step or two, reflecting. That's not going to show up when you're timing yourself sitting in front of your laptop at your home office. But it takes time when you are delivering the presentation in real life. And it's essential time. You want spaces. You want pauses. Pausing when you speak is punctuation. I could write you a letter now and save space and be more efficient with paper if I didn't use any periods or spaces between words or commas or paragraph breaks. But you'd look at it with all a bunch of letters and it wouldn't save time. It would be harder for you to process it. You need punctuation when you're reading. Well, your audience needs punctuation when you are speaking to them. And that punctuation comes in the form of pausing. You pause after you've made a major point. You pause when you've asked a rhetorical question. You've paused when you've said something and people look a little confused. It's essential. But you're not going to know in advance if all you do is say, well, I speak 160 words a minute and I have 1,000 words here, so the math says it's all right. That is not the way to do it. The way to get a much better sense of your timing is you need to practice it out loud. And if it's going to be a presentation where you're standing or moving around, then yes, you need to actually stand up and move around. Now you can practice with your cell phone and you can put it on the other side of the room. And if all of a sudden, you're out of frame like this, that's okay. It's still going to give you a better sense of timing. You need to practice it out loud. The other thing you need to do, give yourself a little cushion. If you've been told you've got 20 minutes, don't prepare more than 15 minutes, and that's practicing it out loud because something could come up. There could be a question. There could be a confusion. There may be a great idea that pops into your head in the actual presentation where you give a second example or a second story to illustrate a key point. You want to give yourself the freedom to do that. TED Talks will give you 18 minutes, but some of the best TED Talks ever have been 14 minutes. The most viewed TED Talk of all time on YouTube is 14 minutes long. No one's complaining, No one's putting in the comments, my goodness, you didn't give us the final 4 minutes. No, it was interesting. Therefore, it didn't matter. Give yourself a little cushion, because here's the thing about timing. You can be speaking really well, great, feel like the audience is loving you, but if you go over, you're going to annoy someone. The organizer of the event is going to be upset because now the lunch is messed up, or the next speaker is going to have to go short because they have to catch an airplane. The next speaker is going to be upset. So you cause all sorts of problems if you go over your allotted time in many meeting situations, conferences, conventions. If you go a little bit under, typically nobody's upset. If you're a few minutes, it's proportional too. If you've been hired at a very high fee to give a 60-minute keynote and 30 minutes for Q&A, yeah, if you finish after 8 minutes, they're going to feel disappointed. But if you've been asked to give a 60-minute keynote and time has not been allotted for Q&A, and you finish at 50 minutes and now you take Q&A for 10 minutes, everybody is happy. If there's no question and answer time permitted or desired, and you've been given 10 minutes to speak, and you finish at 8 minutes and 20 seconds, guess how many people are going to be upset with you? Absolutely nobody. So try to finish a little bit early. Be aware of it at all times. Now, doing all this, sometimes you can still lose track of time. That's why I would urge you, have some timepiece available. Look at the room. If there's a clock in the back, make a note of when you started and stopped. If you have a watch that doesn't require you to do this, do that. You may want to actually put an alarm clock of sorts or some timepiece on a table that's not noticeable next to the computer or next to your glass of water, so you can be aware of time. You also may even want to have somebody in the audience let you know through hand signals. You got 3 minutes left. You got 2 minutes left. Wrap it up. That can be helpful. Figure out what works for you, but realize this speech may be the most important thing you do all day, maybe all week. It's important to you. But everybody else has a lot of other things going on. They've got a schedule, they've got agendas, they've got planes to catch, meetings to go to, lunches to go to. It's critically important that you stick to the time allotted to you for your presentation. Okay, so that was just shy of 8 minutes. So I'm not particularly happy. If something's 5 minutes and I've said everything I want to say, that's fine. I'm a little disappointed in myself, frankly, if I come close to 8 minutes, because again, it's not that it's magic. There's plenty of 8-minute videos on YouTube that have 2 views. But in general, if you can hold the audience's attention for 8 minutes, the YouTube algorithm likes that more, and it shares your video with more people and you help more people. Now, I see Flixio says, "Sup, man, looking sharp with the suit and ties." And I think that you migrated over to YouTube, which I'm very happy about, because it's Mira 2, the logo says, "Sup, man, looking sharp with the suit and tie." So I have to assume it's the same person. So thanks so much. I love TikTok. I'm not going to get into the geopolitical debates going on in the United States now about where to ban it. I'm not taking a side either way, but I love the audiences of every platform. So happy you're here. And Flixo, I don't know if you prefer to be called Flixo or Mira, but if you'd like to come on camera and talk, share, ask questions, participate, give a pitch, all you have to do is click the StreamYard link that I put in the comments right there on YouTube. And I'm happy to have you join us today. And other comments are coming in on TikTok. Patty says, "Where did you get those pearly whites, but you got some beautiful teeth?" So full disclosure, when I was in high school, as a kid, I was one of these lucky kids. I had straight teeth, good shape, never had a cavity, and I was playing touch football in 10th grade. I got pushed down. It broke my front tooth, broke the nerve, had to have a root canal. So then they have to drill off your entire tooth, leave a root, and putting on a cap. And then I had ground my teeth over the years, had certain chips. So my teeth just were not in great shape. So about 18 years ago, I guess, I said, let me just get my teeth looking good, because I was doing a lot of TV interviews at the time, social media stuff in front of camera. So I said, let me just redo my teeth and get caps and veneers. So these are, in fact, caps and veneers. Now, I do have all my own teeth, but they're underneath the caps and veneers. So I appreciate Patty's kind comments. I will tell you, once every few months, someone will say, TJ, you have the worst teeth I've ever seen. You can't please everyone. I'm not going to make it the highlight of my day that someone likes my teeth. I'm also not going to let it bother me that people hate it. The lesson to you, I think, is realize it doesn't matter how good looking you are or how ugly you are. And I don't really think I'm ugly or incredibly good looking. People are going to make comments about your appearance when you put your face in front of a camera, especially if it's in a video format. My biggest piece of advice is don't take any of it too seriously. I have people comment, we've had several people commenting this week that I look like Joe Biden, the United States president. And it's always a little bit amusing, and my family finds that amusing because Joe Biden is more than 20 years older than I am. But I do get it. I am, at some level, sorry if this sounds like an unfair stereotype, all old white men who are basically not too fat or too thin and have little hair and gray hair kind of look the same. So to that extent, I do look like Biden, where he's maybe an inch or so taller than I am. But neither one of us has a great head of hair. We have gray hair. And to that extent, yeah, we do look alike. So I'm not bothered by that at all. But Patty, thank you for the kind comments. And Patty says, are you narcissistic? Well, that's the eye is in the beholder of that. So any one person could say someone else is narcissistic. I think everyone has a certain level of vanity. Everyone, all things being equal, would prefer other people find them attractive or good looking. I think most people would like to come across their best in most situations. To that extent, I am no different than anyone else. Do I enjoy the spotlight a little more than some people? Sure. But am I a sociopath who only thinks of himself and never thinks about anyone else? I don't think so. I certainly hope not. But Patty, thank you so much for stopping by. And again, if you, or I see Allison, Flixa, others have joined us, if you want to come on and talk live on this forum, I'm happy to do so. All you have to do is come on over to our YouTube channel today, hit the link for StreamYard, and you'll appear right on camera with me, and we can have an actual conversation and a dialogue rather than a monologue. But I'm going to keep moving along and creating more videos. So this is my workshop here. I make typically 2 short form videos, 1 long form video per day that are posted on social media 7 days a week. Now, I'll often do a whole bunch. I may do 50 in a day, and they're edited and dispersed, but I'm using this as my workshop to show you how it's done, to demystify it. And I don't think this is the private chat. Barb says, ROFL. I'm not sure what that means. Just heard Patty ask you whether you were a narcissist. Great comeback. Well, thanks, Barb. I do appreciate that. I think that we live in a world now where that word is tossed around. First of all, there are a lot of narcissists in the world, but we also live in a world where the term is tossed around so loosely that these days, anytime somebody doesn't do exactly what you want or see things the way you do, people are quick to throw the label on of a narcissist. I'll leave it to psychiatrists and psychologists and others as far as a formal clinical evaluation of that term on people. We're going to move right along, and I'm going to share with you. I'm going to read these to you in real time. These are questions about communication skills that have been submitted to me by ChatGPT, artificial intelligence. I may or may not answer all of them, but I'm going to share these with you, and you're hearing them the first time I am. How can I ensure that I address questions or objections effectively without getting sidetracked? This is, I think, a great question because it's not the most obvious question, like, what do I do if I'm nervous? And yet it is a real concern. It's a level or two nuanced down beyond the basic questions. So, and it's not one people have typically asked me that way. So I'm going to attempt to do a short form on that. And then I'll do a longer form on that. Again, the short form videos I try to do, it has to be less than 60 seconds. What I have found resonates for me most is when it's less than 30 seconds. And I've had a sweet spot in sort of the 12-second to 19-second range where my shorts have gotten the most views. And Batty, to go back to that, I guess you could say almost all, the case can be made that anyone who makes short videos or YouTube videos on a regular basis is a narcissist. Again, I'll leave that to others, but I've certainly I've heard people make that case before. So again, the question is, how can I ensure that I address questions or objections effectively without getting sidetracked? I'm going to go to camera 2. This time I'm going to start from a different angle. You're giving a presentation. Someone asks a question or has an objection. How do you keep from being sidetracked from your presentation? Well, timeout. For starters, realize it's not your presentation. It's your audience's presentation. If someone has a question and they're confused, maybe everyone else in the audience is confused too. So in general, most of the time, you want to stop and address the question. If they go on too long, say, hey, I'll meet with you afterwards to go into more detail on your questions. Okay, so that's not the snap. Again, I've had this happen a few times today. I'm letting you in sort of behind the scenes, sharing with you my genuine thoughts. I think there's good information there. But there are some questions where I'm feeling this pressure. Oh, I've got to say it in 30 seconds. I'd rather do a long form video. And at some point, I think you have to realize, and I have to realize, something beats nothing. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think that my answer there is a good answer for that amount of time. I'm hoping that I can give a lot better information in the longer format video. But I also realize that, for on my own channel at least, so many more people watch short form videos than long form videos. I have to be able to help people where they are. So if sometimes 5,000-10,000 people watch short form videos, maybe only a few hundred watch a longer video. And as in the case right now with our live long form videos, because we typically go 3 hours, it can be an even smaller audience. But what I'm hoping for is it's more in depth. There's pluses and minuses to every sort of exchange, communication, and conversation you have with people. One-on-one is often the most powerful form of communication. Certainly the biggest things that happen in your life and my life happen one-on-one. Marriage proposals, job interviews. But yes, it's also nice to be able to speak to 10,000 people at once or to large groups. Now, I missed a couple of comments coming in. Facebook user says, hi, sensei. And I don't know if that is your name or that's a word for something else I've missed out on. Madhav is saying hello. And Madhav is always nice to comment on my suit. So Madhav, thank you so much. If I am in fact a narcissist, you're feeding the narcissism, but we won't blame you for that. So Madhav, if you have any questions or comments, again, as always, feel free to join us live. I'm going to go now and try to do a long form video on the topic we just discussed about how to ensure that I address questions or objections effectively without getting sidetracked. Okay. So I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to go to camera 1. Again, I'm gonna try to improve something here this time. My own ability to try to get my timing right. I'm also going to step off camera 1 second because it appears that my shirt is tucking out a little bit. And again, we're not going to commercial breaks every 12 minutes here like a network newscast. I don't have production assistants running over and straightening me up. So that's why we're doing that. So I'm going to hit record now to capture the 4K. I'm going to go over here to the main studio, and I see my friend John Steen has joined us. Hi, John. I'm about to do a long form video, but if you want to come on screen after that, happy to talk with you. You can also post questions and comments. I'm going to attempt to go about 8 minutes long here. Again, this is to be used for my editing team later to edit this down to a long form video that's got production values. So I'm timing it. What do you do if you're giving a presentation and all of a sudden people ask questions or they have objections? How do you keep that from sidetracking your presentation? Well, time out for a minute. Remember, it's not your presentation. It's the audience's presentation. You already know this stuff. You're talking to them to help your audience. So when someone asks you a question, you got to really listen and ask yourself, is this relevant to what I'm talking about? Have I been confusing people? And if this person doesn't understand it, maybe no one in the room does. This person just did me a huge favor because I've been confusing. And now by this person asking the question, I can give another example. I can tell another story. I can give more detail to flesh this concept out. So realize your audience asking a question, posing an objection could be the best thing that ever happened to your presentation. I do recommend that you listen to questions unless you're in front of 10,000 people and you've been told you've got exactly 10 minutes and it's too unwieldy. But most of the time for most people, if you're giving a business presentation or any other type of civic presentation and there's 30 people or fewer, if someone asks a question, I beg you, don't say, please hold all questions till the end, or please submit your questions in writing. That's overly formalistic, and it just shuts people down. It makes them feel like this guy doesn't really care about me, and this woman doesn't care about me. It's just a monologue, and I got to sit here in my hands. Or maybe I should check my cell phone, email, and text. You don't want that. You want people engaged. The best speeches are more like dialogues, not monologues. So you need to give people an opportunity to ask a question. Could it get out of hand? Of course it could. If someone wants to ask a third question, a fourth question, you can always say to the person, hey, I respect your line of reasoning so much, I want to give you the time you deserve. Can you meet me after the presentation in the back there by the coffee machine? And that gracefully doesn't offend the person and allows you to get back with your presentation. It's always possible for someone to ask a question that is so irrelevant to what you're talking about. Everyone else in the audience would be thinking, what a waste of time. And maybe you even see them rolling their eyes. I think at that point, you can say, I'd be happy to chat with you after that about that topic without seeming rude. But so often, the questions are because you, the speaker, said something unclear. You, since you already know the subject, understand it, and you were making jumps in logic that were too fast for your audience. It's not that they're dumb, but you're the expert on what you're speaking about. They're not the expert. So when someone asks a question, think of it this way. They are helping you build a better presentation. You introduce concept A, you've now gone to concept B, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. Tell me more about concept A. I don't understand this part. That question helps you fine-tune your presentation. You can give them a detailed answer. Because here's the one thing we know. If someone is asking a question of you, we know at that moment, that one person in the audience is profoundly interested in what's going on in the room right now. That's a good sign. Our number one problem with most presentations we give is that everyone is bored. People are checking their cell phones and they don't care much about what you're saying or anything else is going on. So the sheer fact that they're asking a question is usually a good sign. It means they're listening to you. It means they're trying to understand something. And maybe they're asking a question, but really it's an objection. Now we got a little debate. Now, I'm not saying every presentation you give has to turn into some huge, giant political debate. We don't want people yelling, obviously, but a little bit of tension can be a good thing. A little bit of a disagreement can be a good thing. It's okay to let someone have a different opinion. You present your opinion, but then you got to take charge and go on. And sometimes you may have to say, I'll be happy to debate that with you by the coffee pot when we're officially done, but we've got to be respectful of everyone else's time here. And then keep going. You want people listening to you. You want people trying to understand you. When someone asks a question, quite often it's because they're trying to have a deeper understanding of what you're talking about. So I love questions. It means the audience is engaged, even if they have a question where they disagree with me. What you don't want is everyone sort of sitting there passively listening to everything you say and their faces are blank. That's a problem. I need you to be aware of and looking for questions even when people don't raise their hands. Sometimes you see the look on their face, you can tell they're confused. Don't wait for them to raise their hand. You can say, I can tell from some of your looks on your face, it seems like I've done a poor job of explaining this. Let me try again. And maybe you give another example, another story, another detail to flesh that point out. It's extraordinarily valuable, free focus group research when you're speaking in front of a live audience, whether they're sitting right in front of you or it's online and you can see their faces through Zoom. Use that valuable focus group research. Every question can make your presentation better. Every quizzical look on someone's face is an opportunity for you to do a quick refinement, another example, another case study to build this. Remember, it is not your presentation. It is your audience's presentation. You want questions. You want engagement. Now, you can always say, if someone's asked one or two questions, say, fantastic questions. We'll have time at the end to go into all the Q&A, and that will be the first one I address. That's another way of not offending someone, not turning things into a confrontation. Every so often, someone will ask a question, and it's really not a question. It's simply an opportunity for them to make a speech. If you're the moderator, you can say, look, do you have a question there? That's really a speech. If you're the speaker, I wouldn't do that. It's too confrontational. It can make that person feel like they've been verbally slapped down. What I would do in most cases is listen. If they keep on going, I would then interrupt, not by saying you're making a speech. I would interrupt by saying, you raise a number of interesting points that we simply don't have time to go into right now. I will talk to you at length about all of these things when the formal presentation is over. That's how I would handle that issue. For a lot of people, it's scary. What if somebody asks me a question I don't know the answer to? Guess what? You can say, I don't know. As long as you don't look embarrassed, as long as you don't look uncomfortable or annoyed or frightened or scared, no one's going to remember that you don't know. You can always say, I don't know. I do know who does know, and I'll find out and get back to you. That's another way of handling questions. What I really want you to do is develop this mentality of, I welcome questions. I want questions. I want this to be a group communal experience because that is the best presentation of all. Okay, so that one, I think I nailed it on the time. And I don't mean to the second. I just mean that what I was hoping for was something over 8 minutes. That appeared to be about 8 minutes and 20 seconds, because that's the easiest thing for my team when they're editing the long form videos to deal with. I'm going to make a note that I did a long form on that one so that I don't repeat it in the next few days. We've had a number of comments coming in. John from Miami, I am not a communist. Question, is it necessary to say such things when addressing certain audiences? Well, John is in Miami, Florida, which has a unique relationship to communism because there's so many Cuban exiles who fled communist Cuba. So there is a political tradition. And in disclosure, I did live in Miami 30 years ago and worked in a number of political campaigns where this very issue came up. As a general rule, you're always better off saying what positive things you are, not what negative things you aren't, because the way the human brain processes things is it forgets the knots and it just hears that negative thing. So you'd be much better off to say, I am a believer, and we're not here to be political, folks. I'm just giving you this as an example. You would be much better off saying, I am a huge believer in free market capitalism and individual liberty, rather than say you're not a part of some other communism, fascism, things like that. But John, always good to hear from you. Feel free to come on screen. Happy to chat with you. As I mentioned the other day, you look like the well-known motivational speaker, Brendan Bouchard. So don't say you have a face for radio. Absolutely not true. Madhav writes, while we are delivering a speech, we have to think like we are doing an act in front of an audience, or we have to think like communicating with 100 people. I'm not sure I quite got the nuance of that. Let me reflect on that. Again, if you'd like to come on and talk to me, sometimes that's an easier thing to restate when you're just having a conversation. And our Facebook user says, I called you sensei because you are more than a teacher, a master. With you, I don't only learn communication or habits, I learn about life. Well, thank you. You made my day. And if I would urge you, if you could register with StreamYard, then we could see your name, because you're watching this on Facebook now. If you click the StreamYard and talk to us through StreamYard, I could actually see, whatever name you go by. So I wouldn't have to simply call you a Facebook user. Am I pronouncing it correctly, sensei, or is it sensei? Forgive me, I don't know. I'm assuming that's a Japanese term, but music to my ears that you feel like you're learning not just about communication and good habits, but learning life, because ultimately that is my goal with this channel, with all of the social media outreach, with everything I do in the media, is to help you to be more successful in life, primarily by building your communication skills and your confidence in your communication, but also through other habits. Some of you who are regulars know, I also teach a lot of personal development online courses. I have an app called Ultimize, Ultamize. If you go to any app store, you can download a free version of Ultimize 2, and it will help you build confidence not only in communication skills, but in every other aspect of your life through giving daily reminders that you pick. Now, I have certain pre-programmed ones in there, but you can disregard all of those and put your own. I mean, you could, for example, give yourself a daily reminder, go on TJ's show and make fun of his hair if you wanted to. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but that's just sort of an extreme example. I listen to the Ultimize app every single day, and it gives me reminders to do things like have a large bottle of water next to you and sip on water all day long. I actually remind myself of that because it is too easy in our modern culture with Coca-Cola ads and Pepsi ads and Gatorade ads bombarding us all day long to just pick up a sugary drink. And I don't want to do that. So I am counter-programming my brain, trying to counter-program all these advertisements with my own ads to drink. That's just one example. I listen to 100 or so little ads in a 9-minute period every single day on my Ultimize app. You could listen to 30 seconds of ads if you wanted to, but I say ads, they're messages you're giving yourself where you hear it in an audio format. So that's what that is all about. So please check it out if you haven't done so. I want to try to address Madhav's question in more detail. Let me see if he gave any more elaboration. Alfred says hello from Meritus, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing the name of your country correctly. I apologize and forgive my ignorance. You were nice enough to stop by the other day, and I didn't investigate how to pronounce the name of your country. If you wouldn't mind coming on, if nothing else, just to tell us how to pronounce the name of your country correctly. So Madhav says, is there a difference between acting like musicians play and communicating? And Madhav says, I don't know English very well, so whenever I have to talk in front of people, some people, I am afraid that what people will think if I make a grammatical mistake, how to deal with that. Okay. Madhav brings up a couple of very, very important issues that a number of people do talk to me about from time to time. So they're very real issues, legitimate issues, and important issues. Let me deal with the first one about specifically when you're speaking, should you be acting? Are you doing an act, or are you just communicating with 100 people? There are certain professional speakers where what they are doing really is a stage show, and they do it almost the same way time and time again. And it's memorized, but they're so good at it, they're like a Broadway star. But it's not about comedy necessarily. It's not about drama, but they're talking about their life or something that happened, a great trauma they had that they overcame. And it is quite theatrical, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. But that's sort of a certain sub-niche of a certain type of so-called professional speaker. And they go around to stages around the world. And they know, like at 2 minutes in, I'm going to be at stage left, down in one knee, doing an act out. So there are people who like that, who are essentially acting, and they do it so well, it doesn't sound like they're acting. It seems like they're saying it for the very first time. They may even tear up, but they're tearing up at exactly the same place every time. So that's not the style I have. I don't mean in any way to seem like I'm putting down that style. It's a particular style of professional speaker. And I got to tell you, it's very difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult because it is a type of acting, and acting looks easy, but it's actually very hard. Meryl Streep went to graduate school at Yale and received a master's degree in fine arts and dramatic arts. One of the reasons why she's so good. So it's very hard for people who are not professionally trained actors to do that. For most people who speak in the business world, professional world, civic life, raising money, investors, entrepreneurs, you don't need to do that. What I recommend is try to be as conversational as possible. Some of you earlier this week saw my it was like an hour-long dissection of the #1 TED Talker of all time on YouTube. And it's amazing how just conversational he sounded. He was in a room with hundreds of people. He was viewed by 55 million people, but his tone of voice was like he was talking to his best friend at a coffee shop. I think that's really the model, is sound like you're talking to one person. Because Madhav, you also mentioned, should you act like you're talking to 100 people? The problem when let me go to camera one. For most people, if you're consciously thinking about talking to 100 people, a couple of things happen. Your voice, without realizing, is projecting, and it becomes a certain type of monotone. And you're scanning the whole room the whole time, and no one actually feels like you're connecting with them or looking at them. So that's the problem. I think whether you're talking to 5 people, 50 people, 500, or 5,000, you're better off telling yourself you're talking to one person. The difference is if you're talking to 500 people, you want to look at one person at a time for just a few seconds, 2 sentences, one thought, maybe at most 5 seconds, and then go to another person, have a one-on-one conversation with that person for a thought, and then another person. You go around the room like that, you mix it up. You're going to sound like you're talking to one person. Now, when you're speaking to more than 50 people, ideally you have a microphone on, so you don't have to project your voice. Now, it doesn't happen in every situation. You could be at a meeting, you could be at a luncheon somewhere, and someone asks you to just stand up and talk about what we're going to do after lunch. There's no microphone around. Okay, project your voice for 30 seconds. No big deal. But if it's an important presentation and it's not just a couple of people, typically you will have a microphone on, which means you don't have to project your voice, which means you don't have to be monotone, which means you can sound like you're talking to one person. And that really is the best way of doing it. Now, Madhav has also asked about speaking and when English is not your first language. And Madhav, we appreciate you being candid and sort of letting it all hang out there. We all have some insecurities. We all have certain things we think are not great or other people may judge us by. And you're saying you feel like people could judge you based on your grammar mistakes. And it is possible. I don't want to tell you it's impossible. What I can tell you is the vast majority of the time, when people tell me their English isn't very good and their grammar isn't good and their vocabulary isn't good, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's great. Yes, I can tell from their accent that they were not born and raised in the United States or London. That's okay. No one these days, I think, really cares where you were born. If you have ideas interesting and useful to other people, and they can understand you, they're not going to care about your accent. And frankly, most of the time, they don't either notice a grammar mistake or care about it if you deliver ideas that are interesting and useful to them. The other thing I would point out is if you send me a letter, and in the letter there are spelling errors, grammar errors, sentences end without periods, it's very easy to stop, reread it, and think, this person's English is horrible. It is different when you're hearing it. The human brain does not process mistakes as easily when you're hearing it versus reading it. Doesn't process grammar mistakes, sentence structure, tense. If you rewound this 10 seconds ago, you'd see I made a mistake. But I doubt you noticed it because we're talking. I'm being conversational. So, Madhav, that's my biggest piece of advice to you. The other thing is the number one way of improving is by speaking in front of other people. That's how you get better at speaking. So if you tell yourself, I can't speak because I might make a mistake, so therefore I won't speak, it's going to hurt you in the long term because you're not going to improve. Everybody occasionally makes a blunder, and it can be embarrassing. I remember once I mispronounced the word simultaneously. I said simultaneously, and people laughed at me. And I remember thinking, oh boy, did I screw up. That happened in 1983. Okay. So I can relate to you. It can be embarrassing. You can remember it. That was 41 years ago. And I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes since then, but that's just one that jumps out at me. But I'd be willing to bet no one else remembered it 5 minutes after the class. It was a college class. I said that. No one else remembered. They noticed it at the moment. They did laugh. But after that, no one noticed. And I didn't let it slow me down. So, Madhav, that's really my biggest piece of advice is the number one way to get better is to speak more, not simply stay in your own head. If you talk to anyone who really is good at learning language, they all have different nuances and techniques, but one of the things I find that's very consistent among super learners of languages is they say it's important to get to the country and talk to people and make as many mistakes as possible. Get feedback. They'll tell you when you make a mistake. So the people who become fluent in the language in a month or two, it's because they are making mistakes. They are making grammar mistakes, vocabulary mistakes every single day in real conversations with real people. Now, am I suggesting you try to give a TED talk in a language that you just started learning last week? No, I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting in any low stakes situation, if you have an opportunity to speak in a language that isn't your first language and you'd like to be better at it, take it. So, for example, right now, it's a low stakes situation because if you come on live with me and make a verbal mistake, it's not like you're going to lose a job or not get hired because of it. It's not like you're going to lose out on $1 million of investment funding that you were soliciting for your startup, because that's not what the stakes are on this platform. The stakes are very low. We're all here to learn. We're all here to support each other. We're all here to get better. So if you fail, and thanks for the hearts I'm getting on TikTok, if you fail, nothing bad will happen. But potentially a lot of good will happen. So not to put too much pressure on you, you don't have to appear on camera. Let's switch over to TikTok a minute. And I do appreciate so many people joining us. I see 127 hearts on TikTok. And so I'm guessing maybe 3 or 4 times that many people have actually come on and joined us live for the last hour and 47 minutes. So I appreciate all the TikTok people coming by, and I appreciate those of you pushing the hearts. Special hello to Sparkle has joined us, Patty, Flixo, and so many others. So thanks so much for joining us. And wow, the numbers really keep going up. Although maybe, forgive my ignorance about TikTok, maybe one person can hit the heart button a number of times and that gets the number up, because I've seen them go from 250 to 352 in just the last few minutes. So it may be that someone is hitting the heart button, in which case I say thank you very much. If you are joining me on TikTok, you probably aren't really that familiar with me. I'm TJ Walker. This is the TJ Walker Success Channel. And here we try to help people become more successful in life by improving their communication skills and becoming more confident in their communication skills. As much as we love TikTok, the best way to participate is to come on over to our YouTube channel, because there you can appear right on screen with me. Talk to me. We can have more of a true conversation, a real dialogue, and you can be part of it. But you don't have to at all. So very much appreciate that. But we don't yet have the technology, the technological ability to connect TikTok to our StreamYard account, which is what we're using to simulcast on 8 different major social media platforms. So thank you for that. Now, I'm always happy to answer your questions about communication skills. And Madhav, I hope that I gave clarity. If you have any follow-up questions, please post them. I would love to hear from you, because I do want you to feel like you're getting really the first level of treatment and the highest level of treatment. But if there aren't any more questions coming in, I am going to go back to the artificial intelligence questions about communication skills. So I'm sharing with these with you live as I'm seeing that. I didn't write them all out, think of answers, script answers, and I'm coming to you like it's all spontaneous. It actually is spontaneous. What are the dangers of not knowing my audience or failing to tailor my presentation to their needs or interests? That is a good question. I think I answered that in another video in the last week. So that's why I'm going to pause on that. How do I avoid relying too heavily on scripted or memorized content, which can sound robotic or insincere? I absolutely love that question, because it's a very real problem. It does come up. People tend not to ask it quite that way. So this is a perfect example of how I feel artificial intelligence is not, making people unemployed or putting us all out of business or stopping us from thinking, but it's a great enhancement to thinking and conversation and planning and creating. So I'm going to answer that question. I'm not going to ask a chat bot or chat GPT to give me an answer and then read it. All I'm doing is having it pose the question for me. And then I'm going to try to give an answer based on my own expertise, my own experiences, helping tens of thousands of people in person over the last 30 plus years around the world in workshops, but also working with people just like you and about 2 million online students from all over the world. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to do this. We'll do it as a short form video first. Okay, when I'm trying to really get this down to one clear benefit, one clear message for the short form, I'm going to go to camera 2. I'm going to hit record, and then I'll do a longer format. Ooh, I think I was letting that record a long time. Anyway, now I've hit record again. So this will be a new piece for the editor to work with. Try to get my notes out of the way. And forgive me, TikTok, you can't see what I'm doing. We have a 3-camera shoot here in the studio that you can see on YouTube and Facebook. How do you keep from falling into the trap of sounding scripted, memorized when you're giving a presentation, and therefore seeming phony? It's simple. Don't write out your speech word for word in advance. Instead, use a simple outline, then rehearse using different words each time. Focus on the idea, the story, the example, not memorizing. Okay, so that is one I'm actually very happy with. That, I think, stands on its own. That is useful information. So many people are used to thinking in terms of, I've got to memorize, I've got to write out the whole speech and then memorizing it. And I find for most people, most of the time, writing out a speech is counterproductive. Not all, there are exceptions. I've had clients win the Nobel Peace Prize, and they know their speech is going to be in history books and newspapers around the world and studied. And there's a level of scrutiny there that does require you to really write it out, edit it, refine it, refine it. Most of us are not winning a Nobel Peace Prize and are not getting that level of scrutiny. I'm going to try to do a long form on that in just a moment. But first, Renee has been nice enough to stop by and say, in Spanish, there's a strong difference with some feminine or masculine words. Many people use a neutral language, pronouncing wrong or being repetitive for boys and girls. I try not to fall into these grammatical mistakes and being criticized and doing it wrong. Should I follow the linguistic fashion? Okay, Renee, apologies. I did study Spanish 4 years in junior high school and high school, but mi español es malísimo. I think I know what you mean, because the issue happens in English language as well, where certainly when I was growing up, the standard default was to say is, he, if you didn't know. So if you're talking about one person and you don't know the gender, you would say he. Now what people do is they say it, they, them, rather than he, his, to not appear to be anti-female and to be gender specific to a man. But technically, the grammar isn't correct because you have a singular pronoun and you're modifying it with a plural. And it's been a long time since I've been to grammar class, so I may be missing a few of those nuances, the actual accurate terms. But I think you get the general drift of, you've got one pronoun and then you're referring to it in a plural way that doesn't make sense because it's one person. So Renee, this is a touchy issue. I won't kid you. It's no, I would say in most circles, at least in English, which is the language I'm most familiar with, in major newspapers, books, serious works of literature, it's no longer considered a grammar mistake to use the plural, to go for they when you're talking about one person and you don't know the gender. And I mean, our goal is communication. Our goal is not to be wrong, and our goal is also not to offend. And the problem is if you just automatically default to one gender, like saying he, you're automatically confusing people. Like, well, why are they saying he? It could be a woman, it could be a female, it could be a girl. So there is a legitimate problem of confusing people using the correct grammar tense. I hope I'm on the same, if I'm understanding your question. Renee, feel free to post more there. You got to figure out, what's your actual goal? Are you in an academic area where you could have all sorts of academics getting angry and saying you're insensitive? There's a lot of different nuances to language, obviously. And sometimes there's no one perfect answer. You have to decide what's going to keep me out of the most trouble, what is going to be most effective for my real mission, which is not trying to make people feel bad or say they're stupid, but just trying to communicate a core idea. So, Renee, please give me a little more feedback because I'm not sure I got the entire nuance. And Renee, again, I will offer this. Some days we have 12 people on the screen and it's a lot of fun. Other days we don't have a lot. We've not had a lot of people share the screen with me today, and that's okay. But we are talking about nuances here of language, of spoken language. So if you wanted to hit the screen for StreamYard, you could come on and actually talk to me, and we could parse some of these details in a more nuanced manner. But I'll give you some time to think about that. Meanwhile, I am going to try to do a long form of that topic I just mentioned to you, which is how do I avoid relying too heavily on scripted or memorized content, which can sound robotic or insincere. I did a short form. I'm putting a little S next to it. I'm now going to do an L because I know I'm going to do the long form of that. So again, my goal here is to try to hit 8 minutes. By the way, we're coming up to the end of hour 2. We've got a full hour left. Typically, what I do in the last 30, 40 minutes of the day is we have a segment on how to be an influencer. But rather than be conceptual and talk about high-level concepts and generic things, I actually take you here into my workshop and you see me make Amazon influencer videos, Amazon influencer ads in a video format. And you see everything soup to nuts, from concept, scripting, shooting the video, editing it, producing it, uploading it, processing it, labeling it, and submitting it. And I try to do not one, not two, but at least 5 different products every time we do this, and to try to do it all in a half an hour. We don't always accomplish it 100%, but pretty close to do that. I'm showing one particular style of doing Amazon influencer videos and influencer videos in general. It doesn't mean it's the only way, but I do think it's the fastest way to sort of hop in the game and the least intimidating way of getting into the game. So that's what I'm doing. Now I see that ITX is trying to come on and join us. So I would love to talk to you on screen. I can't do it on the TikTok app today, but I'm not putting you off. I'm not saying I don't want to talk to you. I would need you to come on over to our YouTube channel, click the button for StreamYard, and then you could appear right on screen with me and we can have a conversation. So apologies to anyone who is trying to talk to us live on TikTok and feeling put off in any way. Those of you who are TikTok regulars, perhaps you can help me. I'm seeing 557. I see the heart icon on TikTok, and I see 557 next to it. What I don't know, forgive my ignorance, is that possibly mean one person has just clicked heart 557 times? Does it mean 557 people have watched at some point in the last 2 hours? I don't really know what it means. So if you're a TikTok regular, and I assume some of you are, let me know. I would be fascinated to know what the answer to that question is and what it means. But I certainly love the fact that so many fine folks on TikTok are joining us today and joining our community here on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. We were on all of those platforms today, as we try to do every day here, typically 9 a.m. to noon Eastern Time in the United States, Monday through Friday. Okay, now I'm going to hop in and do this long form video on that question that was posed by ChatGPT. So I'm going to hit the record so I can record things in 4K. I'm going to switch over to my camera 1. I'll try to adjust this without knocking over my tripod so our friends at TikTok can see. I'm looking at my master screen to see if I'm more or less centered. And I'm going to try to get the white papers so they're not showing up on the screen. Okay. So how do you keep from sounding so scripted, so memorized and rehearsed when you're giving a presentation that you seem phony or contrived? No one wants that. And yet you don't want to get up there and, oh, I forgot what to say. It seems like a balance, right? Well, here's the number one way you can eliminate the danger of sounding scripted. And it's this: do not script out your speech word for word. It's one thing if you've won the Nobel Peace Prize and you know every word of your speech is going to be studied, put in textbooks, newspapers around the world. But let's face it. The biggest problem most of us have when we give a speech is not that people are going to be reading every single word. It's that people instantly forget everything we say. That's why it's essential to do the best we can when we're giving the presentation, to sound fresh, conversational, interesting, and to not sound scripted, memorized, canned. Now, the first thing so many people do, especially if it's a presentation that seems like it's high stakes, is they think, well, let me roll up my sleeves, get to work, get in front of the keyboard, and write this speech out and rewrite it and edit it and refine it. Let's take this word out. And they think of their whole presentation as the stuff on the screen or the stuff on the slides. Let me get this bullet point just right. Let me get this phrase just right on this PowerPoint slide. Big, big mistake. Once you focus all of your energies on a written script, whether it is in a Word document or a PowerPoint document, once you focus on that, you've kind of already lost the game. You're already down that path of sounding phony, scripted, memorized. Even if you didn't memorize it, it's going to sound that way. Instead, I would ask you to start your whole journey a different way. What you really need to do before you write a single word on a computer screen, a PowerPoint, or even a piece of paper is ask yourself this: what is it I really want my audience to do after speaking? Note to editor, take that part out. Ask yourself this: what is the one thing I want my audience to do after hearing me speak? Do you want them to take a particular action, vote for you, invest in you, hire you? What is it? That's the starting point. Then I want you to think about all the ideas, facts, numbers that might motivate your audience to do that. Write them all down. Now I do want you to write, not in a PowerPoint slide, could be just on a notepad. Write down, brainstorm. Don't worry about order, accuracy, political correctness, any of that. Just write them all down. Look at them. Reflect them. Now's the hard part. This is the difference between great speakers and awful speakers. You've got to go through this list of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 ideas, messages, numbers, facts, and eliminate everything but the top 5 messages. That's right. You need to narrow your presentation down to a handful of ideas, messages that will motivate your audience, that will resonate with them to either learn something new or to do what you want. Now what you need to do is to think of an example of that. And now is when we can start writing down. Write down on a sheet of paper or a computer screen, not a PowerPoint, your 5 ideas. And I don't mean 5 big concepts with 89 subpoints. I mean 1 idea at a time, something you can say in 10 words or less. 1 subject, 1 verb, 1 object, an idea, no commas. Once you have a comma, you're on to the second idea. I want you to really narrow it down to a handful of ideas. Put it on a screen or a piece of paper. Now I want you to come up with an example for each one of these points that will make your point more understandable to your audience. And ideally, you have a story, not a fictitious story about a starfish or walking on the beach and seeing fewer footprints. No, I mean a story about you having a conversation with a real person about a real problem, where you were, how you felt, and how it was resolved, whether it's with a customer, a colleague, a client, someone you work with. I need you to write down a word or two that will remind you of that situation and have a very simple outline. Now I want you to deliver the presentation in your own home, your own office, in a private setting where you're recording it on video. Talk it out loud. Try it on for size. Try these concepts on for size and just be conversational with it. Don't worry about words. Don't worry about the perfect phrasing. Just say it out loud. Do that once. Look at it. Figure out what you like, don't like. Do it again. Figure out what you like, don't like. Do it again. Do more of what you like each time, less of what you don't like. And now you've got your presentation. Now you've got a couple of choices at this point. What you could do is have a simple outline on a sheet of paper. That is what I recommend for most people in most situations, most of the time, is to work from a simple outline, single sheet of paper, bullet points with 2, 3, maybe 4 words at most per line. And it's not about perfect wording. It's not about perfect phrasing. It's just a roadmap for you. So you can talk for the next 10, 20, however many minutes it is, by glancing down occasionally every couple of minutes. You will never sound memorized, phony, and canned if you haven't actually tried to memorize a particular sentence, phrase, paragraph. If you're simply glancing down and it's reminding you of a concept and you use whatever word comes to you, then you're going to sound fresh. You're going to sound conversational. You're going to sound like a real person. And that is what's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit the audience as well. Now, you may say, TJ, that's all well and good, but I have to submit my speech for approval, or I have to submit my speech to the organization, or they say they're going to print the speech before or on the website. Okay, here's what I recommend you do. Do everything I just said, then have your video and the audio with your video turned into a transcript. This is opposite of the way most people want to type first, speak from that. A speech presentation is about you speaking. So that is what should be first. Let's figure out what sounds good and looks good when someone sees you speaking. Once you've got that nailed down, you can turn, through technology, any video of you speaking into text. So go backwards that way. Now, I will warn you, when you look at a transcript of yourself having spoken, you may see repetitions. You may see sentence fragments. You may see things that don't really read that well. That's okay. Your presentation is about you actually speaking to your audience. Now, if it's going to be emailed to people after a conference 2 weeks later, and you want some people to read it, you can change the written part for the you can edit that, refine it, send that out. It's not going to be what you say. What you say needs to sound like a real person. The best way to do that is to not try to be a phony, fake actor, because chances are you're not a well trained actor. I know I'm not. The way to sound like a real person is to just use whatever words come to you, use the simplest words, and talk about the ideas you care about. Give examples, give relevant stories. If you do that, people will feel like, wow, that speaker was real. That speaker was genuine. That speaker just talked to us. I wanted to listen to that. I wanted more. And that's how you avoid sounding scripted or canned. Okay. I forgot to set my timer for that. So I don't know if I got my timing right on that or not. Okay. So let's come back to Renee has been nice enough to elaborate. And let's see what Renee wrote. Widening the question here, it is, I hope, clear. Many people use words ending in letter E instead of the original end. For example, mastre doesn't exist. The correct words are maestro for men and maestra for female. The correct plural is maestros for any or mixed plural. So I have three options. Number one, and let me change my cell phone angle for our good friends on TikTok. Apologies for that. Option one, use the incorrect word or example, estimates maestros. Both words incorrect, trying to mean dear teachers. Option number two, use both and being repetitive. Estamadas maestros y estamadas maestros. Or number three, and it says SP dot dot. So, Renee, I am not a linguist, but I certainly have studied linguistics and have certain linguistic opinions. I do know enough about linguistics to know that language is constantly evolving and changing. Things that were considered proper 20 years ago are considered wildly offensive today. Concepts of gender and other things surrounded to sexuality change constantly. The actual meaning of words change. I mean, one of my pet peeves is people who use the word disinterested to mean not interested. It's simply not what the word means. Disinterested means you're unbiased. You want a disinterested journalist, or excuse me, a disinterested judge, a disinterested journalist too. You want someone lacking bias for a judge. But we've gotten to the point where more and more and more people every day, even in major prestigious publications like the New York Times, are using the word disinterested to mean someone lacking interest. And while that can offend me and certain people who have an appreciation for the classical definition, many linguists, I would argue most linguists, would say that the whole point of language is it's to help human beings communicate with other humans. And at some point, if a word has a particular meaning to a majority of people who use it, that is by definition the meaning of that word. And to deny that is to simply not really understand the true nature of language. Language is constantly morphing, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. And it can be easy to fall into this trap of constantly saying tisk tisk to people and saying you're wrong and I'm right. And sometimes all that does in terms of communication is make people hate you. Now, Renee, I'm sure you're a wonderful person. I like to think I'm a wonderful person, but there can sometimes be a case of snobbishness. And I'm guilty of that too. Every once in a while, I'll hear someone say, well, irregardless of the weather, we're going to go sailing tomorrow. And it just, I don't want to say there's no such thing as irregardless. The word is regardless. but it's one of those, pet peeves people who care about language jump on that most people couldn't care less about, and they actually understand what the person's talking about. Another one is what I just said, couldn't care less. People commonly say, I could care less, when what they really mean is they could not care less. But if you spend all your time correcting people, all you do is make them hate you. So, Renee, I apologize. That doesn't quite give you the clarity you were perhaps looking for. But I do believe our primary goal when we're communicating with human beings is to take an idea from our head and get it into their head, to either be useful to them in some way, or to entertain them. And I'm not about entertainment. I'm trying to help people be useful. And there is the risk sometimes of confusing people if we're using language differently than what they're used to. And certainly if we're correcting people, that often it's not communicating anything other than that we think we're better than they are, which typically isn't very helpful. So Renee, I do appreciate you stopping by. Again, this is the sort of nuanced, complex issue that would be a lot better if we could talk about it. So if you'd like to come on screen, be more than happy to share the stage with you. Rather than me guessing about what you're talking about, we can have an actual conversation. But I understand you may be at work, you might not have a microphone around. There's all sorts of entirely legitimate issues as to why someone doesn't want to just show up on screen spontaneously. But please know it is an open invitation. Okay, in just a few minutes, we're going to pivot into our final segment of the day, where I actually make Amazon influencer videos, which unfortunately means we have to say goodbye to our friends on TikTok, because I make all of my Amazon influencer videos using my cell phone, and I have to communicate with you through my cell phone. So we would have to conclude the live feed. If you want to see this, if you want to actually, you may or may not have heard of people making Amazon influencer videos, but if you want to see someone actually making it rather than talking about it, come on over to my YouTube channel right now, or you can join me on Facebook. All you have to do is type in and search TJ Walker Success, and you'll find my channel on YouTube, on Facebook, and pretty much every social media platform. Okay. Renee says, actually, you helped me a lot. Gave me an idea. Okay. Well, Renee, I'm happy to hear that. So happy to be of help. And thanks so much for stopping by. And thank you for asking questions, because this whole channel is devoted to the idea of there needs to be a forum in the world where people can talk about communication skills, ask communications related questions, and get a conversation going on with people who are just concerned about helping everyone else get better at communications. It's not that I have every answer, but this is an expertise of mine where I've spent the last 35 plus years in the trenches doing communication skills training with everyone from presidents of countries, prime ministers, Nobel Peace Prize winners, students, kids getting ready to give a bar mitzvah speech, you name it. I have worked with them face to face with a video camera, helping them with these issues and questions they ask in real time. So that's my area of expertise, and what I'm hoping to bring here to people all over the world, and people who can't necessarily afford to fly me across the world and pay big fees and that sort of thing. By the way, if you do want more than what's going on right here, there are ways of working with me. I am available. In fact, next week, I'm going to be flying to a different part of the United States and spending a full day doing what I've done traditionally in my career, which is one-on-one training with a CEO of a major corporation, helping him get dramatically better as a speaker and as a communicator. So if that is something you think you ever need, feel free to reach out to me. All my contact information is available on the About Me section of the YouTube channel, and you can see the links on TikTok. I'm pretty easy to find. If you Google TJ Walker, you'll see my main website, my Media Training Worldwide website, my tjwalker.com website. So I'm pretty easy to find. But I also have online courses on my own site. They're on other platforms. We have upcoming workshops, in-person workshops, live workshops. Sometimes we do live training through Zoom, one-on-one. Books are available. So there's a lot of different ways of helping. And of course, you can learn right here for absolutely no charge whatsoever. So please do whatever works best for you. And Renee says, thanks a lot. You are great. Well, Renee, thank you for the kind words and comments. I think you're great as well. Please do me a favor, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, because our own research does show that a huge percentage of people who watch videos on a daily basis, even come to our live sessions, don't subscribe to the channel. And that harms the channel. It doesn't let us grow. It doesn't let YouTube and other social media channels share it with as many other people, because they're not getting the indications that it's of value. So if you did get any value here, please subscribe, comment, share, as Renee has commented, share the video, share the link, tell other people about the channel. It would be much appreciated. Okay, I think we have time maybe for one more short form and long form video. Let's see what jumps out at me. And the challenge here is sometimes I'll see a question. It's not that I hate the question or I don't know the answer to the question. It's that I feel like, oh, I've answered that either exact same question or something similar to it in the last few weeks. And while all great communicators do repeat themselves from time to time, I don't like to repeat myself that frequently. Okay. What are the consequences of not addressing potential objections or counter arguments within my presentation? Okay. So that is that's a nuanced question. I've got to think about it. I always like questions when I think, I see where they're going with this, but that's not exactly a question people ask me very often. I like that, having to dig a little longer. So let me ponder that for 1 second. Take a little tea. By the way, I like to drink green tea throughout the day, and while I'm doing this with you, I find it soothing. There's no extra caffeine in it, so it's not making me jittery. I'm also drinking water throughout the day. Now, this isn't the best. I'd rather have it in a glass, frankly, but this is a Soda Stream bottle. So I've turned this into carbonated water, sparkling water. The reason I do that is it's filling. So I'm less likely to, want to snack. I typically have a fairly robust breakfast and dinner, but I'm not a farm worker. I'm not a professional athlete. And I found I just don't need the calories of lunchtime. So by having sparkling water throughout the day, and certainly throughout the morning, I do find it fills me up, and I'm not hungry. So it's not that I'm torturing myself or depriving myself massively. So that's typically what I drink throughout the day with this show. And I am thinking of retiring this mug. There's nothing wrong with "you are simply magical," but it's not a phrase that really resonates with me. I don't even know why I have this cup. I have been reviewing different logos and brand names for, we want to have the TJ Walker Show, and perhaps one phrase like "communicate your way to success" or something like that. If you have any concepts for logo design for mugs, please send them to me, because that is something I'm hoping to get out, and I'm not expecting to make a bunch of money from it, but I'm going to have one and at least help the branding of the show with what I do, rather than just holding up someone else's mug. But would certainly love your ideas on that. Okay. What are the consequences of not addressing potential objections or counter arguments within your presentation? So let me do a short form video on that. What are the consequences? I'm going to make a note, S for short, of not addressing potential objections within your presentation. So what's the problem if you avoid certain objections to your idea in your presentation? Well, the problem is you can go on and on and on about what you think should be, but if you haven't addressed the elephant in the room, that's what your audience is thinking. So that's why it's in your best interest to surface objections to your ideas right away. Answer those, then people will listen to your ideas. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm trying to think now, do I have enough to say a long version? I don't think I have 8 minutes worth, but I could probably do 3 or 4 minutes. Let's just do a rough draft. Something I've not been good about is spending the time myself to review some of these videos and make the hard choice of, writers always talk about you got to throw away your babies. I should, in theory, simply be deleting certain long form videos I do if I don't think they're of high enough quality. So maybe this would be one of them. So I'm going to switch to camera 1. I'm going to hit record. And my mat that I stand on has slipped back. So I've got to, this is what I stand on so that it puts less pressure on my feet, because I do want my head to be almost touching the top. Okay. So again, the topic. Okay. Should you address objections people have to your arguments in your presentation, or should you just ignore it? Well, there's a real danger if you don't surface what people are thinking, if you don't deal with their objections to your argument, they might not pay attention to you. You're going to have a lot more credibility with your office. Note to editor, cut that part out, that last sentence. You're going to have a lot more credibility with your audience if you acknowledge what they're thinking. If you're trying to convince them to do something and they think, well, if I do that, it'll create financial ruin, you need to tell them why they're wrong. You need to say, I understand you're thinking this will create financial ruin, but, and then counter their argument. If you don't do that, chances are they've tuned out right away. I deal with this all the time when I'm giving presentations, trying to convince people to become better presenters. I always say, please, the number one thing you can do is practice your presentation in advance and record it on video and watch it and listen to it. And keep doing that until you love what you see. But I know that the big thought bubble over everyone's head is, TJ, that's a horrible idea. I hate recording myself. I hate the sound of my own voice. It's too painful. I'm not going to do it. So I'll actually say all that. I'll say, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, TJ, I don't want to record myself. I hate it. I don't like the sound of my own voice. Therefore, they can't accuse me of ignoring their thoughts. And they know, well, he gets me. He sort of understands me. He understands why I don't want to do it. And then I try to answer those objections. If you don't like recording yourself on video, it just means you're normal. Nobody likes it. Okay, so I've addressed that first part of the objection, and I've made people feel a little better because I make them realize everyone's like them. They're not weird. They're not strange. They're not losers. They are, in fact, normal. Next thing I do is I try to make myself more relatable to them so they're more open to my ideas. And I'll say, look, I get it if you don't like looking at video of yourself. I can look at a video of myself and say, oh gosh, where'd my hair go? What are all these chins doing here? So if you don't like something about how you look on camera, join the club. I'm the same way. So I'm still addressing their concerns, their objections, but trying to do it in a way that's more relatable. But then I try to spin it around to my point again. But here's the thing. If I don't see how I look, the audience still does. They're going to see my hair. They don't really care. They're going to see my chin. They don't really care. What my audience cares about is Am I giving them some ideas that are useful to them, interesting to them, helpful to them? And am I doing it in a way that doesn't detract because I look too scared or nervous? Typically, the answer is yes. But I don't know if I don't look scared or nervous or anything else unless I watch myself on video. Now, next, I'll try to give examples from other formats that people can relate to. I'll say, imagine this. You don't like to write, but if you had to submit an essay when you were in fifth grade, would you just dictate it once and hope that you got everything right? You wouldn't say to yourself, well, I don't want to look at my first draft. I don't like seeing typos and misspelling. I'll just send it off to the teacher. No, you wouldn't do that, because if you just sent your rough draft or handed in your rough draft or emailed your rough draft to the teacher without having looked at it once, it doesn't matter that you didn't see the spelling errors, mistakes, grammar mistakes, punctuation mistakes. They would still be there. Your teacher would see it. There'd still be a negative reflection on you. So you get over it. You say, well, I'm going to look at my essay so I can correct it. Well, guess what? It is exactly the same when it comes to your presentation. It's not that a teacher is judging every presentation you give, but your audience is. You need to know how you come across in advance so you can correct things. Maybe you're speaking so softly and you didn't realize it. If you're speaking too softly, nobody can hear you. You've accomplished nothing. But if you practice in advance on video, it's going to be pretty audible. Note to editor, cut that last sentence out. But if you practice on video and you can't hear yourself, it's going to be pretty obvious to you that you didn't speak loud enough. Do it again. Practice again and again. So that's an example of what I think you have to do when you're communicating something. Because when you're communicating, you're trying to convince somebody to do something quite often. Practice speaking in a new way. Invest in you. Vote for you. If you don't handle the objections up front, they're not going to listen to the rest of your argument. So yes, you do in fact need to address people's objections, their counter arguments in every presentation you give. Okay, so I don't think that hit the 8-minute mark, but I am happy with that. But I think I gave a lot of nuance there that was useful and helpful to people. Now, what you may have noticed is I did screw up a couple times in that one. I didn't beat myself up. I didn't say, oh my God, this is awful. We got to scratch the whole thing. I simply stopped, said note to editor, cut out that last sentence. In my mind, I rewound to the previous sentence, and then I continued. Now, we're doing this because this is not just a live session with you. It is my workshop where I am making the content for my social media channels and showing all to you, showing the mistakes, showing the failures, showing the mess ups, ideally to motivate you to do the same thing, not make mistakes, but to start making content, sharing your voice and sharing your wisdom. So that's what we're about here. And I just backed up and redid it, and it'll take the editor about 2 seconds to delete that. And they can cover up the transition with an image. They call it B-roll. So that's what that was all about. Okay, we're at the time now where I have to say goodbye to all of our good friends on TikTok. Let me see if anyone was able to answer my question, because I still don't know what it means to see the heart symbol on TikTok and 558 next to it. Is that one person who's just hit the button 558 times? Is that 558 viewers? I don't know, but I'm hoping to get to the bottom of that. If anyone knows on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere, please let me know. So I'm going to use my cell phone now to make Amazon influencer videos. So right now I've got to sign off to our TikTok friends. We'll see you on Monday. Thanks. Okay, so we've signed off from one feed. I'm now going to take my cell phone and we'll switch to camera 1.
and I'm now going to make the Amazon influencer videos, which many of you have seen me do this. I've been doing this for about 2 months on our live stream show. And I've been doing it for about not quite I guess right at 3 months. Started this whole thing about 3 months ago. So it's still fairly new. I've got to get the products that I'm going to review today. And pull these up. Got a couple of books. Oh, we have a coat, a winter coat. I don't use a lot of these days in Florida. So I'm going to get my products ready. And I'm also going to insert my receiver into my iPhone. This is an iPhone 15. You don't need the latest one. It was just time for me to get a new phone. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to get this a little bit closer to me. And I'm showing, what I'm trying to do here is to be less distracting. So I am framing it. We'll go back to camera 3. I'm framing this now so that it's showing mostly my curtain, my blackout curtain, which I have to sort of simulate what things look like when I'm on stage giving a speech or presentation. So I realize it's not framed best for you. But again, I'm taking you behind the scenes in our workshop here today. Oh, now I'm putting on the microphone. So I hit on. I may have held it too long because I saw the green light, but then it went off. Okay, now I see a green light. So that tells me the microphone is on. I'm going to try to get it really as close to my mic as possible, but I don't want to put it up here. That would be a little bit too distracting. So I'm going to do short form verticals. And by the way, Renee says goodbye essentially, and it's me who called you sensei. Oh, okay, Renee, thank you so much, and I appreciate your kind words. And thanks to everyone who did take the time to stop by live today. Okay, I'm going to get my remote control because I don't want to have to hit the button to turn it on and stop to hit it off, because that would then have to be edited out. I turn my remote control on and I see the blue light. Okay. And this is a Ralph Lauren winter coat, which I believe I've had about 10 years. A lot of good memories. Kept me warm when I was in colder climates. And I'm going to angle it down just a little bit. Ralph Lauren is a name that symbolizes luxury and elegance. I've had this winter coat by Ralph Lauren for 10 years. It's kept me warm, whether I lived in New York City or traveled the globe, always in style. Okay, so I'm just going to do one 15-second ad. What I've occasionally done lately, especially with books, is I have done some longer form ones, really to sort of build better relationships with authors, publishing houses, and PR firms. But what I have found is the vast majority of my views on Amazon comes from the short form, 15-second or less vertical videos. I messed that up. I actually hit the remote. So what I want to do right now is hit delete, because I don't want to accidentally upload a 1-second video and then have Amazon have to delete it and I show up as someone spamming. I don't want that perception at all. You want to get organized, eliminate mistakes? The Checklist Manifesto. So simple and yet groundbreaking.
Ground baking. I sound like an imbecile. So again, don't beat yourself up. I'm joking a little bit. I know I'm not literally an imbecile. What I just did there, I'm hoping you say, well, TJ makes mistakes. I might as well do it too. I talked earlier about editing. The editing I do is just hit the delete button and do it over. It's much easier, faster, simpler. Let's do that one again. Are you looking to get better organized, minimize mistakes, especially in important tasks? The checklist manifesto. It is clear, it is simple, groundbreaking, because in fact, it's so simple. It is truly a great book, and it's fascinating stories in here about how everyone from surgeons to pilots, so many lives are saved just by people following checklists. And most of the time, people think they're too smart, too good to do it. All I can tell you is my feet love them. My shoes are so much more comfortable when I put in Dr. Scholl's. They're soft, comfortable, and create a better walking experience. So this is one where I have to be a little bit tricky because Amazon does not want any advice, any ads that purport to give medical advice, health advice, anything like that. So I really focused just on the comfort level. I almost said I'm not going to give medical advice or health advice, but I didn't want the words health to come out. So that's one reason why I specifically did it that way. If you think of yourself as creative, you're an aspiring YouTuber or novel, this, The War of Art, needs to be front and center in your library. This is a fantastic read. Stephen Pressfield, very much a classic in that whole genre. Let's see, I've done shoes, 2 books, a coat. I believe that's 4, and then I was going to do one on a new book out about communication skills by Charles Duhigg, and I thought that I had brought my iPad here to show. Oh, there it is. My book, my bag was on top of it. So here's what I don't really know. And those of you who are Amazon influencers, I think I'm okay doing this. I have done it a few times. Typically, you're supposed to show a product in order to do a review of it. And they do not want you going to the halls of Walmart and just going in a store and doing that, which I've not done. A digital product is a little bit different in that there's not something to hold. You can show something on a screen. So I have done reviews of digital books before. What I'm going to do now is, and it's a book I've paid for, and it's a book I've read in its entirety. So the book is a new book by Charles Duhigg. Many of you know him through The Power of Habit, which until Atomic Habits came out was sort of the biggest blockbuster book about the niche of habits that had been written in years and years, which I believe came out about 10 or 12 years ago. It's on my library. It's in my library over here. So I'm going to pull up Charles Duhigg's latest book. What I've got to figure out is how to hold it up on my iPad in a way that shows the cover, because otherwise it's going to look weird showing it up. So I'm going through here. Oh, it's allowing me to search. So I'm going to search his name. And there is his name. And there it is. It is Super Communicators. What I don't know is how I can pull it up where it's showing it full screen. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now, which I could, if this were a regular show, I would have done that in advance, or a producer would have done that. But again, what I'm trying to do here for you is actually bring you into my workshop so you see exactly what I am doing. So we're not spending, okay, there we go. So I'm learning this as you are too. So it's it's Super Communicators. That's the name of the book. For some reason, I forgot the name of the book, but it's really a great book. In fact, I may do several ads for this one because he's someone I'm hoping to get on this show to interview for a podcast. So I would love for him and his team, his publicist, to see ads of me talking about how great his book is. The idea that would dramatically increase the odds of them wanting to come on the show. And I guess what I'm going to do is, you see this sort of ridiculous looking child-proof. I got this not for my child, even though I do have an 11-year-old child. I did that because I dropped my iPad once and shattered it. But I think it's going to look more like a book if I hold it up this way. So let me take it out of the case. Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. This is the guy who wrote The Power of Habit. He goes so much deeper than anyone else in areas of human development. If you want to be a better communicator, you need to read this book now. Okay. So now I'm going to do some longer form ones, and I'm going to make these horizontal. So I'm going to shift my camera, and now I've got to adjust up. So it's a different angle. And I've not been doing these horizontals, some of you may remember, since my wife was coming in and doing these. But I switched to the verticals because that's what gets most of the views. But in this case, I'm more interested, frankly, in building relationships with Charles Duhigg and his team, his publisher. So that's why I'm doing this. And again, I'm only giving, oh, John Steen just says subscribe. John, subscribe to my YouTube channel. John, thanks so much. Very much appreciated. Thanks for stopping by today. So I'm going to do a more detailed review of this book now. Charles Duhigg is a master communicator, and he's the perfect author for this book on being a super. You know what? I'm looking at the wrong, since I just changed it, I realize I'm looking at the wrong angle. I'm not looking at the camera here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one right here. So that's always a bit of an issue when you, so the camera is on the left side. When you go horizontal, sometimes you don't know which way it is. So I'm doing this again on my cell phone because I can then instantly upload it into Amazon. So I'm looking, wait. Okay, I need to look at the right. So now it's a little confusing sometimes. Put my pocket square back in so it's not popping out too much. Charles Duhigg did a masterful job on this book, Super Communicator. He goes so much deeper than the typical tricks, tips, and tools you've heard so many places else. You know what? Maybe it's the end of the week, but that sentence I just said made absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I'm going to hit delete on that and not put pressure on myself to get it just right. Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg is absolutely the best book I've read on communication in the last decade. He's a masterful storyteller, journalist, and communicator. He brings it all together in a way that gives genuine new insights, fresh tips, tricks, and tools for you and me. Good God, I just dropped my remote. So again, some people would just say, keep going and edit it. I don't want to take the time to edit, so I'm just going to hit delete. I hit delete, and I'm just going to do it again. I go back to camera on, and I got to remember to look to the right. Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. It is a fantastic book. I picked it up and could not stop till I finished it. This is absolutely the best book on communication skills that I've read in the last decade. And believe me, I've read them all. Hi, I'm TJ Walker with the TJ Walker Success Channel. I try to help people become better communicators. And Charles has come up with new techniques, new examples that will get you to rethink everything you thought you knew about communication skills and give you more avenues for being successful. Check out the book. Okay. And, that's probably enough. I was going to do more, but I think that gets the point across. Okay. So now I'm going to pull out the receiver. I'm going to take off my microphone, turn off my microphone so I don't needlessly waste battery. I'm going to do something I should have done a minute ago, which is test the first one to make sure the audio was on, because every once in a while something happens and you just have no audio. Oops, I just accidentally made a recording there. Let's see, we're going to delete that. Okay, now I'm going to, let me just exit it. Let me start again. Camera. Charles Duhigg. It is a fantastic. Okay, so I hear the audio, so I know it works. So now what I'm going to do is I go to Safari on my cell phone. I'm going to type in AMA. I'm looking for my own page, my own channel on Amazon, which I'm going to. I now create content. I hit post video. I hit post library. I click the most recent video, which is the one I just did. By the way, I'm going to take a moment to turn off my remote control so I don't needlessly waste the battery on that. So that was a 39-second video. It takes a little bit longer on my iPhone 15 to process the video and upload it. So that's uploading. Once it does, it will give me an opportunity to describe it and link to the actual product. So I'm going to take a moment here. By the way, we're closing out the end of the week. It's been a fun week. I had a great week last week, all last week off on vacation with family, skiing in beautiful Colorado, Beaver Creek, Colorado. But it's been a fun week right here as well. And glad to be a part of it. And hoping next week to have a full, well, I take that back. Quick program note. I'm going to be out at least 2 days next week conducting an actual presentation skills training with an executive. But I know I'll be live with you Monday and hope to be live with you at least 3 days next week. So we're going to have lots of time to get together, answer questions next week as well. Okay, that video is uploaded. I'm now going to go to your orders. I'm going to put in Super Communicators. The book pops up. Now that's odd. It says no results found. I know 100% I bought that book on Amazon, Kindle. I don't even know how else I would get it. But every so often that happens. I'm going to go to browse history now, which then searches all of Amazon. Super Communicators. Now the book comes up. I am adding product. I just want to make sure it doesn't also show up in different formats, but I'm just going to do the one. I hit done. You will be a better communicator after reading this book. Exclamation point. So not the most artful headline, but simple communication, very clear, promising a benefit, and it's one I believe in. Go to storefront, create content, post a video, photo library, go to the next one. Same book. It's processing the video. This is a shorter video. It shouldn't take as long. It is going to upload it. This one should be easier to find since I know I don't have to search my own orders. I'll just go to the searching all of Amazon because I know it's there. Excuse me for rubbing my nose. I think I put on, sometimes the makeup powder I put on before the show can create slight irritation. So I don't mean to be rude to you. Browse history, search, super communicators. I add the product, I hit done, title. Truly connect with human beings after reading this book. Exclamation point. That's a little more awkward than I typically do with a title of a review. I'm not quite sure why, but that one just didn't come to me as easily. Again, I could hire an ad agency to come up with perfect titles. I could use ChatGPT and brainstorm for 10 minutes. I tend to do these quickly because I'm still in a phase of my own Amazon influencer career where I'm doing a lot of testing. I'm putting a lot out there, looking for signals in the marketplace to give me a better sense of where I should double down, what could be more lucrative, and where to go. Create content. That one finished. Post. Choose a file. I didn't want to hit choose a file. I go to post video. Then I go to photo library. And now I see the war of art. So my style, what I'm trying to do here is more like what you would see on a home shopping network, a QVC, where it's not all scripted, it's done live, and if it's not live, it's recorded live and then played out as live. So that's the style I'm going for. In part, I think it lends itself more to my talents. In part, it's so much faster and easier that if any one video doesn't make any money, I haven't really lost anything more than a few seconds. The War of Art. The book pops up. A couple of versions come up. I'm going to go ahead and add both. I don't think there's any downside to that. I'm going to hit done. If you are a creator, comma, this book is a must, exclamation point. Submit post, go to storefront, create, photo library. I go to the next product. These are the Dr. Scholl's inserts, which are really so much more comfortable. Now, I've used these in the past. I did just put these in yesterday, but I can already tell it's just so much more comfortable wearing these because certain shoes like these men's slip-on shoes, there's just not that much support. And even though I'm thinking of myself as in perfect health, I have noticed just in the last 3 months, I don't know if it's related to standing as much for you, my feet do get tired more and do hurt from time to time. Your orders. Oh, it's already there. Add product. Done. Your feet will love you, exclamation point. Done. Submit. Go to storefront. Create content. Post. Photo library. Next item, the checklist manifesto. Uploading the 15-second video. In a moment, it will ask me to add the product and then to title it. I'll do that. And it's right at the top of the hour. It's noon here on the East Coast of the United States. We try to finish noon. I'll probably be just a minute over, so apologies for that. So browse history. The checklist, manifesto. Add product, hit done. Organize your life the smart way! Exclamation point. Sometimes when you dictate, it'll put in extra punctuation you don't want. It inserted a comma there that I didn't want, so I had to delete that. Go to storefront, create content, posts, photo library. Now the Ralph Lauren coat. So I seriously doubt I bought this coat on Amazon. I don't typically buy winter. I don't typically buy winter coats very often anyway, especially since I live in near tropical conditions in Florida. So we'll see if also it's a 10-year-old product. So there's a chance that I can't find anything even similar to this on Amazon. So we'll take a look. We'll see. If not, what did I lose? 30 seconds. So I'm willing to take a risk like that because the downside is so small. The upside potentially could be big if people buy it a lot. So you never really know. Ralph Lauren men's winter coat. Search is what I wanted to do. So now I'm seeing things that look. So this is a little bit trickier. I'm seeing a lot of things. Maybe I should define trench coat. Ralph Lauren men's winter trench coat, wool. I think it's made of wool. Let me just take a look. It is. This is meant to be one. This is what I would wear with a suit. And so it covers the suit and looks like a businessman's coat. Let's see what comes up. Oh, they did that as the title. That's not what I wanted. Let me delete from that. Let me add product again. Ralph Lauren men's trench winter coat, wool. For some reason, the dictation stopped. Men's trench coat, winter coat, wool. Now, this is odd. For some reason, my dictation is stopping. Winter coat, wool, trench coat. Didn't add the trench. So every once in a while, this slows things down. Trench coat. Now it put me in the title. So we're at the end of the week here. Things are not 100% efficient. Ralph Lauren trench coat, wool. For some reason, the dictation just stopped. Now I'm at least seeing coats. Now I'm seeing things that look a lot more like my coat. It might not be the exact 100% same pattern, but I can already tell this looks like it. Here, this one looks very close to it. And they're highly rated, highly regarded. Wool coat and this here. This looks like the one that's closest to it. So I'm going to select that. This Ralph Lauren winter coat served me well for 10 years. exclamation point. Submit. Okay, so that took a few minutes more, but I believe we started at about 11:36. So I think in 29 minutes, we came up with a concept for 6 ads. We shot video for 6 ads. We edited, meaning hit delete. We processed them, uploaded them, tagged them, titled them, and submitted them to Amazon, all of which should be live in about 5 hours. So was it a little tedious? Yes. Was it the most exciting TV, YouTube stream ever? No. But I hope it gives you a sense of the steps involved and how you can do it too. I'm TJ Walker, and I'm urging you, take every opportunity you can to speak out, to help the world, help other people, and you'll end up helping yourself too. Thanks so much. I'll see you online here on demand. Every single day, we put 3 new videos out every single day, 7 days a week, and then come to you live Monday through Friday. I'll see you here live Monday, but please come back and watch the live videos. Some will be released within the next 2 hours. So thanks a lot. And now I moved my mouse around so I couldn't hit the end, but now I can. Bye-bye.